Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 422.
Oh yeah, 422. Darn it! I think I messed up the title. I'm gonna have to go back and edit that.
We're getting there, folks. We're getting there.
I updated the name because we were in a hurry at the last minute here, and I forgot to update the number.
Well, either way, it's, I believe, 422.
It is 100% correct.
Tonight, very special guest who will be joining us in just a few moments, Stephen Dodge, or I don't even know if he's listed as the tournament director, but he's the overall event coordinator, we'll say, of the MVP Open at Maple Hill. I think he's passed off most of the real work to other more qualified people, but either way, he's in charge and he gets all the glory, and rightfully so.
He was a dapper man this weekend. Every time I saw him, he was in a nice little suit jacket.
That's his
being the key word.
Yeah, that's his new shtick. That's all part of a new overall look and feel. When he picked me up back in May, I believe not only was he wearing a suit coat, but he was also wearing shorts and unmatched socks with it. So he's got this brand new look down. He's got a wife that likes to make sure that he's dressed and feels good and
from the waist up, at least.
Yes. I mean, that's his good side. So we can thank, the whole world can thank Jessie, and I mean, she's a professional career hairdresser and has added so much more flair and style and dapperness.
I was really hoping that he would just break out his old Star Trek uniform.
I know. I brought that up earlier today, that that's what we've seen from him. So anyway,
I've got a picture somewhere of me and him.
I looked at my phone. I couldn't find it.
I know I have it.
So we're going to talk to Steve in just a few moments, and then we'll recap everything else that's been going on outside of the MVP Open at Maple Hill. Of course, we have the Disc Golf Pro Tour in its regular season, so to speak, and postseason. I don't know how we're using these phrases since we had the playoffs, and now we just have the championship left. And then, of course, the USDGC is around the corner, and we can dive into some of the things that were announced with regards to that today, too. So I guess there's no reason to wait any longer. It's late on the East Coast, so joining us now, Steve Dodge.
Good morning,
Good morning,
Steve.
guys. How are you?
Great. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. It's a beautiful evening.
It is. And let's start off. One of the things that was just posted last evening was the addition to that wall. So you're a disc golfer. You've got discs on the wall. Tell us what's made the wall, because you're not always that much of a collector / hoarder / like super sentimental guy when it comes to Frisbees. So tell us about the wall behind you. Let's start there.
So it's fun you say that. This wall's been up for almost a week now, and actually maybe more than a week because the tournament, I guess. But yeah, so this Christmas, my brother got me all of the Maple Hill events signed by the champions. So in the top left back here is the 2004 MSDGC. I think my big head's in the way. And then it goes all the way over to, the first 19 discs now are signed by the champions, and the one white one in the middle. I'll go ahead and move this up. Is this a podcast or is this like a video thing?
It's a little bit of both.
Turn this around?
So for our audio viewers, Steve is currently showing us the wall. So explain what we're looking at here, Steve.
All right. So up here on the top left is the 2004 MSDGC signed by Ron Russell and Des Redding. You got 05, 06, 07, all the way down. And then last night, 2 nights ago, Simon Lizotte put this little bad boy up on the wall. The 2022 MVP Open signed by Natalie and Simon. So, and then all the other ones are just special discs to me. Like this is one that my daughters drew on and made a Vibram lace into looks like some sort of snow skier. So anyway, there's all sorts of good stuff up there.
Yeah, and some collectors and very much your time with Vibram certainly represented on there. I think I finally, as a host of the show, have nailed down the MVP Open at Maple Hill, and with that, I assume you're just going to change the name next year, because every single time I finally...
It's about every 3-year cycle.
Yeah, every time I break a habit, you go ahead or get it, you fix the habit or whatever, you seem to change it. Now, I know you have this incredible relationship with MVP, but are you going to change the name on us?
I don't see why we wouldn't. I got a 10-year, $2 million deal, and I don't see why we wouldn't just throw that away.
Yeah, I mean, keep it spicy one way or another. I'm
So,
sure you'll
so
come up with something.
one really exciting thing that happened this year, MVP came on board big time for us, which was really, really exciting. And it allowed us, we invested close to $100,000 in infrastructure on the course this year. And I actually I just put out the Spectator, how do we do survey, and so many people said, love the new bleachers, love the new Spectator pads, well, nobody said they loved the new parking because we still don't have enough of it.
Mm-hmm.
But people were appreciative that there was more parking. We parked about 500 cars on site, and a few years ago we were parking almost 300. So we're getting better and better on that end. And the one thing, as soon as you show somebody, hey, we got some bleachers up here, they're just like, hey, we need those bleachers on 11 and 2, and it's just like, okay, so we're not done yet. But with the great partnership with MVP, we're able to invest a lot of resources into making the course much more spectator friendly.
So let's start there, because fair or not, immediately some people saw the bleachers and then they were super concerned. It's amazing how once you get to the internet, everybody knows everything. I guess we've learned that. I'm not new here. But there was a lot of questioning and people worked up about the bleachers and how they were mounted. Did you see any of this blowback and or concern?
Of course. Maybe? I appreciate all the concern and the I guess armchair contracting.
Yes.
And it worked out really well. We were able to look at it and shore a couple of things up that maybe should have been shorn up a little better. I don't have any idea about how you make something structurally solid. But just the guy that
couple nails.
Just throw 200 people on it and see what happens.
Well, that's
one way,
right? I mean,
well, but the guy that the guy here that built the bleachers and put the supports on it does know what he's doing. I'm confident that it would have worked fine. He put some window dressing on it, put a little extra, some extra ends to make it maybe more solid. But the guy on site who was expressing concern worked with him, and they made it clearly safe enough.
Okay,
that's how we all want to be, just safe enough. Good, and I'm glad, and it's obviously it's just a testament. Some people are being genuinely helpful, and some people are just being jerks to be jerks. So hopefully you can, somewhere in the middle, you find that, hey, there was some concern, and I knew it was all taken care of. But again, we're on the internet, so good to hear that was.
Just to say, I genuinely appreciate people questioning what I do, because I make, as you know, as Miles knows, as anybody who's worked with me more than once knows, I make plenty of mistakes. So question everything I do, and if I seem to be doing something right, give me an idea, and I'll run with that one, and someone else should question it.
So let's back up, because I think when you were here last, we were actually largely talking about the $1 million shot and the opportunity. And then even after that conversation, I believe you had some additional concerns or clarifications that had to be made so that this could come to fruition, especially if somebody hit it, and that it would get paid off and everything else. So the world, fair or not, called the headline or not, the world definitely was excited about this shot or the opportunities this weekend. Kind of quickly recap what went into even making that happen, just so the world knows. Like, how does that come about?
So somewhere in mid-January, I called my friend Mike Calzone over at Foy Insurance, and he's the same guy that insured the Pro Tour trailers and trucks and made sure that back in the day when the Pro Tour started, if things went more sideways than they did, then everything would have been fine. As far as like if the truck broke or something. But and so I called him up. He's and actually he does my car insurance and my house insurance now. Saved me a bundle. So Foy Insurance, give him a call. But I called Mike and I said, Mike, I want to try $1 million shot ace contest and see what this looks like. And he did some investigation, and it finally all got resolved, I think probably about a month prior to the actual shot. There was a lot of back and forth. We used UDisc a lot to find, quote, similar holes to see how often people would get in circle 1 or circle 2 or parked. None of those holes were obviously birdied. They're, a 600-foot par 4 is not going to be, aced, not going to be aced very often, and it wasn't. So used a lot of stats, used the video from last year's long drive contest, fed them and their actuaries a lot of data, and then they came back with some numbers, and it was really nice thinking 4 or 5 years ago this wouldn't even have been possible because there was no significant amount of data. They would have said it's $1 million policy, and good luck. And and we actually ended up going through Lloyd's of London, and we got pretty lucky on Thursday. The men's round was canceled. I don't know if anybody remembers that. It seems like a decade ago, but the men's round was the men's round was canceled on Thursday, and I called Mike while that decision was being made. I said, "Can we confirm that it's okay to push this to Saturday?" And it was we had to call England and get a reply fairly quickly.
Wow.
And then it's a shame because we couldn't do the same thing with the women because it was a weekend and it just wasn't going to happen that quickly. Although Paige Pierce was a little miffed at that. She was like, we had to throw into a headwind and the guys are going to get a better day. And rightly so, because the women had a much harder chance with that. They had like a 15-mile-an-hour headwind. And so one thing we learned from this is going into the policy next year, we're going to ask them, we want to pick the best 2 nights for the weather. We're not going to define what night it is until the week of, and then we'll figure out what nights it'll actually happen. So anyway, a lot of stats went into it, a lot of money went into it, and I guess I could close by saying that on our end, Sarah Dodge, my niece, who does a bunch of video production, worked with DGN, and they coordinated the creating of a little show that went on the broadcast right after the live feed.
Well, first of all, I think it's awesome. And thank you for always continuing to push the envelope and come up with something new. Of course, there was, I feel like there was criticisms. I don't even think is the right word. It probably is, but also just a lot of questions. I think people just questioning how stuff comes about, and they don't realize the massive amount of work and diligence that has to go into this. Clearly, it's for $1 million. Clearly, the insurance companies are going to want to make sure everything is as legitimate as possible. And honestly, that thought did cross my mind as to just the idea of like how difficult was it to change and how set were they on a particular day? Because right off the bat, I think of an insurance company who doesn't know anything about disc golf is like, well, you were going to do it on this day, but then somebody got a hole in one on a different day that we didn't even talk about. Like, I could understand how there could be, how that all went down. You talked about it. Go ahead.
I was just to say, I'll just piggyback on that. We actually had to pay. This was an unexpected thing, but we actually ended up having to pay another $2,500 for an adjuster to come out from Boston, and it was his job to come out. We had to save him a spot in the VIP parking lot, make sure he got there, and he had to be on site. He got on the tee, he measured the basket, made sure it was far enough, the women's basket ended up being 455 feet, and the men's basket was 602 feet. So
You son of
he
a.
he came out and had to measure the whole thing, and then he had to go stand at the bottom and watch everybody throw and he was just there. So in addition to the minimum of 4 cameras, he was there to verify the whole thing.
Wow.
The amount of the number of T's that were crossed and I's that were dotted was astounding. And I'll just say thank goodness for Mike Calzone of Foy, because he handled all of that. He just said, "Hey Steve, we need another check for this. Hey Steve, we got a guy to do this, and this is going to happen." And he actually said that for the first time in his life, he hopes somebody has a claim.
Would make sense.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they have to do all of those things, and I think those things,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm glad I asked, because so many of those things people never even remotely think about. Was there ever any pre-talked about contingency plan for inclement weather at all? Like whether it was wind or rain, or if the winds were 40 miles per hour, was that like, well, it is what it is. You just get whatever weather happens on that. Did you guys talk about weather at all?
We never talked about weather. It was always just, it only made sense to do this well, for me, it made sense to do this on Thursday, Friday. My goal was to utilize the $1 million shot to expand the number of people that wanted to come to the first 2 days.
Sure.
I knew Saturday and Sunday were going to sell out. I wanted to create some buzz and get some excitement for those first couple of days. And never really considered weather, and I wouldn't have even really considered weather except for the fact that the men's round was completely canceled. And I was like, so getting these guys to come out to the course, like, and they haven't warmed up, they haven't done anything all day, and then all of a sudden you're going to come and throw just 3 throws because you weren't allowed to practice the throw. So it would have been a mess, and it was obvious if we could move it, we needed to.
Okay, so you obviously you guys pushed that back to Saturday with some adjusting and some extra details. Even thinking about the adjuster himself, who had to come out then on Saturday when he was planning on Thursday, and everything else. Correct. As you were saying. I got frustrated, and I know I read internet comments too much, but
the third time
I get frustrated when there's uncontrollables. Like there's a lot of people that feel as if, well, why wasn't it shorter? Essentially, why wasn't it easier? and it's like you don't grasp the concept that this isn't supposed to be easy.
The easier it gets, the more expensive that insurance policy gets.
Yeah, and so I guess with that though, is this insurance policy overall? Does this go hand in hand with the East Coast Metal Roofing as the title sponsor? They're largely responsible probably for the insurance policy.
Who was it?
East Coast Metal Roofing.
You said it every time someone got up to throw, and I don't blame you. It just
tell me I didn't do it right.
You did it 100% right, Terry. It was beautiful.
I loved it, Terry Miller.
I did too.
You did, and I even commented while we were watching the live that night. I commented to whoever was sitting next to me, I love Terry Miller saying East Coast Metal Roofing $1 million shot every single time. It wasn't quite every single time, but it was plenty, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Huge shout out to Paul, the owner over there at East Coast Metal Roofing. He has probably 10 or 12 guys that play disc golf, most of them with Maple Hill as their original home course back in the early 2000s. And they are quite the crew over there, very disc golf centric. And I guess they're disc golf and metal roofing centric. That's those are their two things. I'm excited for the shingles up above me to give out so that I can get a metal roof put on, because it's a one and done. It's exactly how I like to do things. Well, I don't know if that's completely true.
I would like a metal roof on my house as well.
So, exactly. Yeah. Anyway.
So as asked on the board, someone said, not only should it be easier, but another just general philosophy is could it be maybe shorter and easier, but at a smaller amount, like, and a more likely to hit? We'll say at $100,000. Were you
For
just
like a 450-foot shot or something,
or whatever? Yeah. Were you just stuck on the idea that 1 million is such an impactful number, and therefore, if it's that much harder than somebody hitting a shot for 100,000, do you feel like just the splash is that much bigger, and that's why 1 million was a number you were going after?
Yeah, absolutely. $100,000 shot today. I mean, you're buying a third of a house. That's not a big deal. I mean, it's a big deal. I don't want to disparage that. But $1 million shot, you're on every type of media in the world, and you have just like the Holy Shot, just like the Philotros, you have a significant impact in one go. And that was the reason. In my opinion, the $1 million shot sounds a lot better than the $100,000 shot, and that's the difference. So sure, you could move that basket up to 500 feet, pay about the same amount of money, and have a $100,000 shot. But I go big or go home. That's how we do it.
Yeah, I just feel as if so many people expected it to be hit, and we all would have loved it, but there was this weird expectation of it. Like, it's just not.
I gave like a 1 in 1,000 chance. Like,
Yeah, what did they give you odds? You're the most numbers guy I know. Was there like an official odd
they
on
ended
that?
up, because everybody got 3 shots, and we did not factor in the significant wind the women had. They gave it about a 1 in 100. So
really?
each, and then they tacked on some for themselves. So with 24 shots, so it's actually a 1 in 2,400 shot to have the top players in the world aim at this thing. And then we gave them 24 shots, so the math works out. So it's about a 1 in 100 that would get hit. And the policy we paid was I'll just go ahead and say it was close to $30,000, and with the adjuster was over $30,000.
I was pleasantly surprised at the entire setup, at the production, at the crowd. I kind of, in general, and granted I'm old and jaded at this point, all I kept thinking is like, ugh, I have to sit here and watch these guys just throw discs for whatever. I was legitimately excited.
You're welcome.
Not because of you, Terry. I don't believe you threw a disc.
That wouldn't have been exciting if I was.
For both the men and the women. Obviously, the women, we all kind of sat, we don't think they're going to get it because of the wind. But when the men the next day, it was the best distance competition I've ever seen. And we've seen quite a few of them in the last 20 years. So I was really happy, and it flew by. Let me say, it was pretty good.
When I checked my watch, our goal was to make a half-hour production out of it. The women went very fast. It was cold, it was windy, and they just got up there and went. And God bless them for trying. And there were some legitimate, really good shots, but sometimes you throw a perfect shot and then the wind just smacks you. So I feel really bad for the women, and I'll go ahead and plant this seed here, and maybe in 11 months someone can remind me. In my opinion, the women had a much worse chance due to the weather. So maybe a week out from the tournament, we check the weather and we let the women choose first which night they want to go, and then the men get to choose second, and then we can alternate and go back and forth. Because as it turns out, the men had first choice this year, although nobody actually made a choice.
Sure.
But I think it would only be fair to give the women a significantly better chance next year, and let them choose the weather first. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just follow that up. I know I asked you privately, but clarify for the world as to the opportunities, because you said men versus women. Then it also was very explicit in saying that the first person to hit the ace, and I love all of the closest to the pins to determine that. But clarify about one day versus another in terms of the women going one day and the men going the other. Because I asked you a question midweek, and what did you say to me?
I think I said I love you too.
You said that, but I said if some woman hits it tonight, being Friday, do all of the men still get to go and have their opportunity on Saturday? And
yeah, they were two separate policies valued at the same amount.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I think is very important. I think that's worth mentioning because I'm sure somebody else was wondering, and if my big dummy head was wondering, and I'm sure somebody else's was.
I never even thought of that.
And
well, that's because you're not a wait. You are? I don't know. Yeah, because there was such an
I just assumed
emphasis
that it was two separate policies. I never once put it into my head that it would be the same thing when first person to hit it. The way you phrased it like that, I was like, oh yeah, I guess that does make sense, possibly. So
yeah, and if if Natalie Ryan, who got the very first shot because she was number 1 in PPI, if she had hit it right out of the gate, the other competitors wouldn't even get a shot. Well, they could still take a shot, but they wouldn't have a shot at the million. It would be done. And so what I meant by the women get the first choice, we'll have Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights next year that we have an opportunity to do it on, and we'll look at the weather and say, hey, you top 6 women, pick a night, and maybe we'll just do a vote by them, and then the men can do the same thing. I want to say it was I honestly, it's funny. I guess I don't look at the internet very much anymore because I didn't see anything about the bleachers. I didn't see anybody complaining about the $1 million shot, saying it's too far, it's impossible, it's too easy. I didn't see any of that. So which is great. But
Terry hangs out on some seedy internet sites. Let me tell you.
That's true.
As soon as Albert Tom threw that first shot, I had goosebumps for the next half hour because oh my God, I'm getting them again. Like anybody could have hit. They were right there. I mean, they were buzzing the tower.
Who was your, and like if you had to pick one of the MPO players who had the better weather to hit it, like if you had to give odds, who gets the best odds of hitting that amongst the men who threw?
Well, Albert and Paul were the closest, so I would give them the best odds.
That's funny because I would have picked Albert or AB. Just the way AB throws the power hyzer, the flat to hyzer.
Yeah.
I think he could have fought. Him and Albert both overpowered it.
Yeah.
As opposed to Paul, who didn't. He got closest, but I don't think he ever went past the basket. Not that he.
Well, okay, so it's interesting. I kept saying whenever they were pinned high, I would let them know that. And I was trying to say, hey guys, that's the right distance. Do that again. Just aim a little more left or right, or hope the wind's a little different. But you had the power right on. And I was talking to Paul after the event, and he said, Steve, I just assumed you were being a carnival barker and trying to get everybody excited. And I was like, no, I was really trying to help. So it was that was a pretty funny comment because Paul went to look at the basket. They were not allowed to take practice shots. That's part of the deal. So he went and looked at the basket afterwards and realized we had it elevated 5 or 6 feet on that big platform. And so he said it looked much closer to the wall to him. So he thought he was still 50 to 80 feet short. And he didn't realize how close he really was. So next, I don't really know what to do. Oh, you know what? I do know what to do. We have a video screen near the tee that shows how close the discs are, just like they did at the Beast.
Yeah. That's difficult. I would say that's difficult just from a production standpoint because those discs were everywhere. Like you've got one camera who's focused on the basket in the chance that it's going to come in.
That's true.
There was probably 80% of them where we just watched it go off into the nothing. It's like, all right, there goes that one behind a pine. There's that one behind a fir.
From FPO or MPO, and of course, we saw the wins. But was there anything that ultimately surprised you with it? Like anything with the competition? With either, I know the FPO had the wins, but I'm saying just in general with the competition over the 2 days, was there anything that surprised you with regard to the the actual contest?
I just tore my earbuds out.
He was so offended at your question. Now is when we can talk bad about him.
That's true.
All right.
He's doing
technical difficulties. I don't know if you guys could hear me yelling.
Yep, we hear
Yeah,
you.
there you go. We can edit that out in post. Whoops.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what we'll do.
Certainly.
Definitely.
We're known for our editing skills.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we usually shorten up our podcast. No, my question was...
Were you surprised at anything
I heard
during the competition?
I heard the question. The thing I was most surprised about was how good-natured and happy everybody was. Obviously, there's no downside. Nobody spent any money to take those shots. It was just totally skill-based and fan vote-based. But looking at Paul and Ricky and Simon, of course, all just standing there excited. They look like little kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't in the second and third rounds, they didn't necessarily know the order because it was based on CTP, and it was fun because we'd say, okay, up next, and you could see Paul like move his foot onto the tee and then be like, oh, I have to wait, and it brought me such joy. I got a mess here. It brought me such joy to see how happy those guys were. That would be my biggest takeaway, and the fact that they can throw 600 feet pretty accurately.
Yeah.
But seeing how happy those guys were was probably one of the highlights for me.
Was there anyone in the field that you looked at the field and thought, I'd like to see them take a shot at it, that didn't get a chance to throw?
Gannon Burr.
Oh yeah.
After the fact, it was kind of fun. So the whole thing finished, and then like 20 top pros jumped on the tee and just started throwing.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the staff were down there, and they collected a lot of the discs, maybe all of the discs, and brought them to the base of the structure. And then they were just like, wait a minute, what's going on? Like, there's just hundreds more discs now. And I think that, I don't know for sure, but I think that Gannon Burr actually hit the platform.
Okay.
And I saw him take 3 shots, and they were right there. He is an impressive person.
Yeah, it's too bad he's not probably old enough to claim it or something, being only 17. They would have had to fly his mom in to sign for the check or something.
Goes into a trust fund.
All right. Well, speaking of checks and the overall event, let's get right into it. We saw, of course, the incredible playoff in the morning. Well, first of all, we'll start the 4 rounds that took place. So maybe before we even talk about the FPO division, the idea, I mean, how kind of bizarre, right? 4 rounds for FPO, only the 3 for the men. Any clarification or thing you want to say about how that decision came about, that it ultimately was 4 for women and 3 for men? And then why didn't we still have a cut for FPO for the 4th round as planned?
Why didn't we have a cut
Yes.
for the FPO? I believe that decision was made to be consistent between the divisions as much as possible. I did hear from some of the women that they were glad that there wasn't a cut. It was different than what was anticipated, but I think that was done just to be consistent with the MPO. In my opinion, the Pro Tour did a really good job of handling the weather delay and balancing the concerns of the players with the needs of a tournament. You've got a tournament. Your goal is to get as much disc golf in as possible. You've got lightning delays. If the MPO had started and only a few of the cards had gotten on, which is likely, or which is what would have happened, it would have been a very big mess the next day, because the women wouldn't have been able to play, and they in fact, we would have in fact shortened both divisions to three rounds if that had happened, in all likelihood. And yeah, it would have been a big mess, and I'm really glad the way the Pro Tour handled that entire situation.
What's the communication like between you, your staff, and then the Disc Golf Pro Tour staff? What is that not communication? What's that conversation like who's kind of driving the bus, and do you just provide feedback? Do you rubber stamp stuff? Like what is that communication like in that conversation?
So for the weather delays, I even commented how happy I am with the way the situation is. I don't call anything. I remember 3, 4, 5 years ago, it was on the event to say, okay, the lightning is too close and we've got to call it, or there's too much rain and there's TPads are flooding, or whatever it is, and we've got to call it. And now it is 100% on the Pro Tour. I obviously have input, and if I said, hey, I think there's an issue because of such and such, would be listened to, no problem, no concerns on that. But Seth Muncie of the Pro Tour makes the call and says, okay, we need to stop now. There was lightning, it's fast moving, it was within this distance, or it was even closer and it's slow moving, or whatever it is. Their software was much better than the software that I had, and I actually loved looking at it and seeing all the different strikes. And player safety is paramount to the Pro Tour, and hearing all the conversations, and then also the input from the players was critical as well. Whether or not they feel safe and whether or not they feel listened to is important. So I was very impressed with the level of communication between, I guess, and the PDGA was there as well. So between all of the disparate groups, and then as soon as we got word, we were able to pass it on to the spectators, and then pass it on to our staff, and then the Pro Tour disseminated it to their end, and the PDGA, I assume, disseminated it through PDGA.com and other channels.
Yeah, because of all the things at Maple Hill, it feels like the one big complaint is the TPads. When they get wet, they get slick. In dry weather, it feels like nobody really has too much of a problem with them. But during inclement conditions, those TPads do not have the best reputation. Have you taken any of that? I mean, clearly you've probably heard that from a year. I mean, this isn't new. This is something that we've known for years.
Correct. And one of the big things, to your point, is if a TPad has these pavers and is in the shade, it tends to get more algae growing on it than if it's in the sun. And so I guess Tuesday or Wednesday before the tournament, we bleach clean all of the TPads that are concerns. And I did hear one of the top female players who had complained about the tees and was concerned after the round said actually the tees were pretty good. And it was said in a surprised way. Like, so we do hear those concerns, and we do address those concerns. Having said that, I do remember seeing in the final round, I think I saw Ricky slip on 17. And that front left corner of the 17 TPad, I feel like there was noticeable mud on the tee as a remnant, and that other players would kind of avoid that area, and Ricky just happened to step in an area that was in fact quite slippery. It's something we work to address. We do clean the TPads every year before the tournament, and we're doing our best to mitigate it.
I'm going to take a quick tangent to that, and since I know you're a man who will take feedback and or put this maybe even on a dream or bucket list, and maybe some of the media guys already said this, as a commentator and as a guy who's been there, if I had a couple of dream items to add, it would be an extension off the back of 9. And I know these are all structural, costly things to do. I'm not ignorant to that, but an extension off the back of 9's tee, just so there's plenty of room for both cameramen and players, because there's always that awkwardness. Even me, who's filmed there dozens of times, there's that awkwardness of like, well, does the player mind me on the tee with them? And if I'm in a corner and then we're not getting a great shot anyway,
I like looking up James Conrad's shorts.
or you're standing down looking up, which kind of looks cool for a moment. It's just it's such a great hole, but it's so difficult to cover. And I know we've had, Todd up in a tree on the catch, but I'm just thinking, if again,
where were you, Todd?
In our dream world, if somehow and I don't know how old or not that TPad is in the first place, that whole structure on 9, but in a dream world that's extended by 8 or 10 feet back. We'll have to get some engineers out there to make that happen. And then in a similar sense, the challenge with 4, and everybody throws on 4, and then the second they throw, they step into the 2 inches we have to view.
Right.
And again, I understand all of these things, but if we're creating a bucket list of minor things that could be helpful from a media, selfishly, of course, from a media perspective, some kind of little tower up behind 4, and I know that could come in to play with 3's basket.
There's been a bench back there before that our guys have stood on, and I've usually, as a director, try to take the shot from the catch, but that doesn't always work. Because if they catch a tree early, it wrecks my shot. I always just trust that all our players are perfect, and they're gonna pipe it.
It's their fault.
So I'll say 2 things to that, Terry. First of all, because of that question. So we have a spectator survey that we sent out. We'll send a staff survey out as well. I'm going to go ahead and this year add in a media survey, because those 2 things that you pointed out are, one of them is relatively easy fix. The giving you a platform on hole 4 to stand on won't be that hard. And if there's something that we can do that would improve the media experience, it's definitely worth doing, presuming it's not too costly. I guess if it's worth doing, it's worth doing. That's how we do it. And then and on hole 9, so I'm going to do a media survey. So look for that in the next day or 2. One more thing for you to do, Terry.
Good.
And
Good.
then
That's what I'm hoping. That's what I needed. On
hole 9, I got to experience the 8 holes again this year. I think they knocked it out of the park. I love the way the energy they bring to the entire course, and I love that the 14ers are stepping up their game. Mm-hmm. And who knows exactly what's going to happen long term. I hope the people at 11 and 13 understand that place is called the Cutler Place. That hill is called the Cutler Place, so that they don't misname themselves like the 11-13ers or something, but they're actually going to be like Cutlers or something. But on hole 9, one of the things that I'm going to ask Gage to do, and I haven't talked to him yet, so he'll probably hear about it in about 5 minutes when someone calls him. I want to look for another TPad 50 feet to the left of where hole 9's current TPad is, and get it farther away from the 8 holes. Because that I understand people out on I understand people out on 14 and all over the course have they hear the noise from hole 8, but the people on the tee of 9, they're right there, and the cheers on hole 8 are not in cadence with what's going on the tee of hole 9. Mm-hmm. So that's one that I actually think should be addressed. The extension on the tee is fine, but I think a whole different tee would actually be warranted there.
Yeah, it's too bad because I really love and maybe there's a space over there. I was going to say, I love how just almost dead straight the hole plays. And, but, coming maybe from an angle, it could still be relatively straight. It's going to have a little bend in it at some point. But yeah, again, that's totally selfish. And I've been there and we saw some of that this weekend. A couple times players said, hey, can you back up? Or they're good with it. And you're just kind of awkwardly standing there or you're getting a shot up James Conrad's shorts, which,
it's for somebody. The 8 holes, they bring a lot of energy. They're a lot of fun. Do you feel like there's a point where it could be overboard? I mean, we heard Nate Sexton and Nate Doss on the commentary. We were going to go to commercial off of the 8 holes, kind of doing their big clap as they do, and suddenly somebody gets on the green and they start announcing players' names, and then they start clapping, and then there's the flags, and like, at what point does it become a distraction? Because as Nate had said, they wouldn't necessarily love it in the heat of battle, having to wait on 8 while these guys do their full routine, so to speak. Is there a point where we need to kind of tone them down? Sadly, I mean, they're such a great addition for a lot of things.
So one really nice thing is that Zach Benson, who is where's the crown?
Mm-hmm. He's the king.
I don't want to announce. I can't decide who's king out there. I can only say he's wearing the crown.
Like Lord of the Flies, we know.
But he is. I would say he's sort of quasi staff at this point. If there's something that needs to be done on hole 8, we can just task him to do it, and we know it's going to be done. If there's So anyway, he works very closely with us, and if there's a genuine concern, we bring it up to him, and he brings it to the primary 8 holes, and then it disseminates from there. I have not looked into exactly what happened on I think it was just the final card, but I'm not sure where it I've heard different varying stories, and I need to try to pin this down at some point. But I've heard that there was a delay there. I've also heard there was reasons for the delay, but I haven't sussed out what those were. So yeah, in my opinion, I wouldn't want the 8 holes to impede the pace of play. They should be calling out the names before the people get to the tee. I don't have a problem with Zach getting on the green and leading the crowd the way that he does with his slow claps. But if they're not done with their production before the people reach the tee, then something should be modified.
Yeah, it was funny just because we were going to go to commercial off of, like, again, the clapping when they started the production, and then at one point we're like, all right, I guess we're just staying here then, because by the time they were done with the full thing, it was time for everyone to tee off. And so rather than go to a commercial and then put everything in replay, we just went live. And I didn't have a problem with it, but that's when Nate had brought up whether or not the players were waiting, whether it was something else. Because I know there's some talk about them and the 14ers. We got to get a better name for them, but we'll stick with 14ers for now. Distracting other cards, and I don't really have a problem with that personally. I think that's now become part of the play, part of the atmosphere, part of what you need to focus and concentrate on while you're at Maple Hill, because the 8 holes can be heard literally from hole 1 through probably 15.
No, every hole
on the course. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I mean, it's and we saw a couple times players have to stop, regroup, and start their process again because of a mistimed cheer to them. Maybe they're on hole 11 or
5
or something like that. But I personally don't have a problem with that aspect of it. I like the excitement. I love the cheering. It makes it difficult from the production, because we're used to hearing cheers like that and assume something big happened. Like, oh, there's an ace somewhere on the course, or somebody's hit a huge putt. Let's look on UDisc.
Not someone tickled a tree and then skirted near OB and then stopped 28 feet away.
And then you hear usually the crowd eruption. So
or someone walked to a tee.
That too. Yeah.
There's a huge eruption.
But the good thing is we can tell on 14 when who hit the ace. That was Alex Benson. When Alex Benson hit the ace, because that was more of an eruption and a lasted thing. And so we kind of knew at that point something big had happened.
So I'm glad you bring up that shot, because I think I was watching Nick and Matt, I think it was Nick and Matt the other night. And either Nick or Matt Graham told a story. But the 8 holes, it's interesting because is it more disruptive to have constant clapping occur, every minute or two, or is it more disruptive to have the group in front of you have a big shot and just have loud clapping all of a sudden? Because both are going to happen in a disc golf tournament. And the story that I heard was Missy Gannon was putting on hole 9, which is on the opposite side of hole 14 when Alex hit that ace. And so she was all lined up, and then that the big eruption happened. And to her credit, she paused and said, "Okay, I'm not going to."
She actually gave a little applause too. Like she turned around, looked, and I think realized what happened and gave a little golf clap.
And then when she was resetting, maybe Alex was running down the dam or a bunch of people were running down. I don't exactly know. And then the crowd erupted again as she's approaching the basket. And she was just like, okay, what's going on now? And then I think that she putt and missed and maybe rolled out of bounds. And these are the things that are going to happen. We're all on the same property. And having said that, Maple Hill, I think, is actually more spread out than most courses. If you're playing Maple Hill and there's 18 groups out there that are well spaced, you might not even know there's other groups out there during an ordinary day, because the holes are all pretty well spaced out and they're all self-contained for the most part. So
yeah,
that's just going to happen.
No, and that's a good point. Is that there's constant excitement and applause and eruptions really from sun up to sundown out there, and that probably overall is easier to get used to than just the 1 or 2 bursts you might hear in a day, coming from, like you said, an ace or something of that nature. And it's obviously an electrifying crowd and a lot of excitement out there. And it's crazy to see so many people get into it for so long, and then what it's evolved from too. I think it goes along with so much of the rest of the tournament to where it's come from. So we all derailed ourselves. FPO.
Oh yeah.
Back to the actual golf, but FPO.
Wait. Let me say real quick. I know that we have the best staff in the world, and I say it every time, and the staff gets better and better. And like now they're marking discs in the middle of the fairway, like they're putting little flag. And these guys are fantastic. But I think for the first time, I genuinely believe we have the best spectators as well. They come out, they are respectful, they have so much fun. They listen to the staff that says, "Hey, go around over here." What? Wait, what?
Well, there was one.
All but one guy.
There was one guy. How'd that guy get on?
Yeah, how'd that guy get in?
I just think the best question of the whole weekend is, well, why'd you move it? I don't know. Like, why'd you pick it up?
What are you talking about?
On hole 14, during the round,
it was I believe the second.
I think it was the chase card. Ben Calloway threw a shot. He was way off to the left side,
into the woods,
on the left side of 14. And at some point, it was brought to our attention that some guy picked it up.
He just walked over, picked up the disc,
and so they had to determine where it was. And so they put it back. And Robert Leonard's on camera with us at this point, and he says, "Well, why'd you pick it up? Why did you touch it, or why'd you pick it up?" Whatever he said. The guy just goes, "I don't know."
It was a little bit more slurry. I don't know.
Like, it was just like,
I think it was someone who had a little too much fun. Maybe just saw a disc there, didn't realize there was a group on the tee, and just was like, "Oh, there's a disc here." Not realizing, oh yeah, there's a tournament. I mean, realizing there's a tournament going on, but maybe not realizing there's a card coming, and just literally, with a little bit of help in this bloodstream, just walked over and, "Hey, there's a disc here."
It was.
I'll take this up to Lost and Found.
Yeah. Never mind the guy that's walking to it, trying to play from it on the chase card.
But you're right. I do agree, though. You guys, I think, do have the best spectators, pretty much most respectful, and probably some of the most knowledgeable on the tour.
And they have so much fun. It's really, really fun how much fun they are having. I get joy from it. And if we want to talk about drunk spectators, I actually do have one fun story.
Okay.
Please.
Because we know how much you like to drink, so this is clearly this is you under a different name.
I have a friend.
Yes.
Do you guys know? I don't know if it's Phil Delone.
Phil Delone, yeah, on the Disc Golf Pro Tour staff. Yep.
I'm gonna share a story that he shared with me. He saw a spectator who clearly was having he was drunk, and Phil said, "Sir, you need to leave the course. You're gone." And the guy was super respectful. He said, "I'm so sorry. I don't normally drink this much." And then he looked up at Phil and he goes, "Are you Drew Gibson?"
Phil's like a foot and a half taller than Drew, but yeah.
Well,
wow.
But are you? And Phil says, "No, I'm not Drew Gibson." And he says, the guy says, "If you're Drew Gibson, I'll walk off the course with you."
Wow. Like Drew would be doing crowd control in the first place.
No, Drew could.
Maybe. Wow. Okay.
I thought that was a good one.
Yeah, I could see that. Huh. Well, with that though comes, these viewers show up. You have VIP parking. You fit more in this year than ever before. I know there has to be tournament parking for the players and all this other stuff. That maybe is one of the good challenges or drawbacks to this. You have so many people. Did I see in an email? Your people are parking at an airport, the local regional airport down the road, and are trying to Uber in or walk to the course. Like, clearly parking, there's only so much you can do about that, right? I mean, and is this such a good problem to have?
Well, it's funny. Good problems are still good. That's one thing we have to remember.
Mm-hmm.
Good problems are still good. We actually have a very comprehensive plan for next year's parking already, and we will make it more robust as we go. We are planning on hiring 2 shuttle buses that will be shuttling people in from offsite parking, which we anticipate will be probably about half of all spectators will be parking offsite. Every year, I take it as a personal challenge to try to get as many cars on site as I can. And next year, because the shuttle worked so well this year, and it wasn't a professional shuttle, it was just us. Next year, when we're going to have a professional shuttle, every 12 minutes going back and forth from wherever the parking lot is. There's 4 or 5 potential parking lots. We just have to work with the town to figure out what the best one is. And so that's going to bring about half the people in, and then all of the other lots, we're going to reduce the cars by about 10% and make parking on site basically stress-free. So it'll be easier on the staff. It'll be easier on the people parking on site. We'll use the opportunity of the shuttle to inform people of what's happening that day. Give them a little card that says, "Here's the schedule for today." Hit the person on the shuttle will be able to scan people in and give them all their passes. And so when they get off the bus, they're all scanned and they just go. There's a lot of advantages to being able to shuttle people in. It says it's a 6-minute trip from the farthest of the 4 lots. So that's a fine amount of time in a shuttle. And I think you'll be able to check in up to 10 people pretty easily in that time frame. So we have a really good plan already to address the parking, because that is a big deal. The other big deal that I see in this, it was fun looking over the spectator answers, because people wanted more diverse food. They wanted a coffee vendor. They wanted bleachers on hole 2. They wanted bleachers on hole 11. And it's really fun, because now that people see the bleachers, like, oh wow, let's put them there and there and there, and they don't realize those bleachers are not free. So, but we're happy to invest, and we will grow and grow and grow. But the big thing that I see is making it so that we can get more people around hole 18. we can put people at hole 8, and we can put people at 14, and we can put people at the Cutler place on 11, 13, and at hole 1, and in the woods if you have the gold pass, and all. We can spread people out on the course, and people are getting used to the idea of sitting in a spot and watching the cards come through, and then when the lead women's card go through, you follow them, and then when they finish, you go back to your spot and you watch the lead men card. And so we can spread people out during the day, but at the end of the tournament, we need to be able to fit 1,500 people around hole 18. So bleachers around hole 18 is, or a solution around hole 18 is the next big hurdle. And I would say that's what we're going to address most this next year. And I believe parking is not going to be an issue ever again going forward.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
Do you have any idea? You have some idea probably then of what were the numbers like for you this year in terms of spectators, and do you feel like weather significantly impacted that one way or another? Obviously there weren't as many on Thursday afternoon. I'm not an idiot, but overall, how much, what were you looking at for some of your numbers?
Saturday and Sunday were sold out, 1,250 tickets each day. And Friday we sold close to 1,000, and then Thursday was not. It was probably around on the 500 to 600.
Do you feel like, though? I mean, are those numbers just right? I mean, how at a certain point there's saturation, or you're hurting the viewing experience of being there. I know you just talked about ways to address some of that, but is there a magic number in mind?
The goal next year will be to. So last year in 2021, we had 625 tickets sold on Saturday and Sunday, and I looked at hole 18, and I, in my scientific way, I said I think we can have about twice as many people, and so I doubled it. With some increased infrastructure, I think we can have about 20% more people around hole 18. So we're going to go up to 1,500 tickets.
Okay. I like it.
Or I should say, I shouldn't say that definitively. I should say that's my current plan. But it's been all of 3 days since the event. So
yeah, and you're not one to change your mind on stuff. So it came down to 18. Obviously in overtime for the FPO, and very close to overtime for MPO. But on the FPO side, the 4 rounds, it comes down to our world champ against Natalie Ryan, who's won earlier in the season, of course, at D-Glow, very different course. And she put a stop to Kristen, who's won the last 4 events she's entered, of course, being a Silver Series, a couple of Elite Series, and a Major. Can you draw that up any better? I mean, is the only thing better than a 2-person playoff is a 3-person playoff? I mean, like, talk about the FPO side, and maybe even the battle of Paige charging in the last day, and then Natalie versus Kristen. Is there anything you want to chime in on any of that? I mean, yeah.
I will go ahead and say one thing. I personally wanted to have a hole 1 and hole 18 aggregate playoff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like one hole playoffs are not enough for. I'll just say Elite Series for Elite Series and up. I think an Elite Series, a Major, going to a 1-hole playoff is and Robert Leonard actually pointed this out. He said the last 2 world championships were both decided with a 1-hole sudden death playoff on an island hole.
Mm-hmm. 16 both times, hole 16.
Both times. Potentially could be viewed as a little fluky. Where obviously if you throw it on, but things can happen. Like that, if we made our one hole 8, I think, Gannon Burr hit the basket and almost rolled out of bounds. That would be a bad way to lose. I like the idea of if you lose that first hole, or in this case it would be hole 1, then you have an opportunity to come back on hole 18 and play aggressive and try to get the birdie and force the other person to get a birdie as well. And maybe they end up bogeying and you end up winning. And like there's I think it increases the fairness to the players and the excitement for the spectators. And in this case, 1 and 18 are both iconic, and 1 is righty friendly and 18 is lefty friendly. So I think it like the balance works out in a lot of ways. So that's the one thing that I personally would have liked to have seen different. But overall, I mean, wow, what an amazing finish.
And you
Kristen,
just didn't
yeah,
get an exemption for that. Is that what I heard? Because we had talked originally, it was discussed that was the playoff structure, and then some
was
miscommunication.
You could call it miscommunication. It's more of me never even considering that there could be a rule about that. Like, why would they make a rule about that? So I didn't ask for an exemption until Thursday. So, or it might have been Wednesday, but I think it was Thursday. And then the competition committee actually had a meeting that night and discussed it and said no.
Because it was just short notice. I mean, the concept's not completely unique or crazy. So good on you.
They didn't say it was because of short. Well, actually, it's kind of funny. They did say they wanted to have time to discuss it, and my thought was I thought that's what you were doing at the meeting, but but I threw something on the agenda very late, so maybe they didn't have time to discuss it at the meeting because they had other things. But it felt like a slam dunk to me. I wish it had happened. It didn't. Hopefully next year the rules can be tweaked for Elite Series and up, and if we want to have aggregate whole playoffs, we can do it.
Yeah, and
I love the idea. I've said it for years.
Yeah, and I'll throw a couple of quick clarifiers in there. One, the rule by default, if I think the rule currently stands as if there's a playoff, unless otherwise determined by a tournament director, it is sudden death starting on hole 1. I believe that's how it's officially stated in the competition manual. And then secondly, at some point during the final round, I was sent a link to the idea that it was going to be 18 and then a hole 1 aggregate. I was sent that because it was listed that way on UDisc. And it's something I usually think about. And anytime we have a close battle, whether I'm in the field or in the booth, I start thinking ahead to that, if it's even a remote possibility. And so I was sent to the link from UDisc. That's where it had it listed. I said it. I surprisingly got it out relatively clearly. Then I said it again on my own accord a little later. And then before the third time I was about to ever say it or mention it again, it was put into my ear, hey, just so you know, there wasn't a waiver granted. That's not the case. It's not happening. And I was like, awesome. I'm glad I was wrong twice, and I'm going to fall on the sword. So that's why I then had to come back and I made a clarification. And at that point, I didn't know what waiver by whom. I didn't know any of those details. It doesn't really matter. But I'm glad on my own accord I said it incorrectly twice. So that's how it went down, because then naturally the internet does its interneting and was like, well, wait, someone changed it. Who changed it? Why aren't they? Terry said it was going to be that way, and they didn't hear the explanation or whatever. So as if there was some kind of favoritism or something silly. I don't know. So yeah,
you and I have worked together for well over a decade now.
Yeah.
And I didn't make a bet with Jesse, but I was like, I know at some point I'm going to do something that causes Terry to say a wrong information. And I'm so happy that we finally have that behind us.
Yes, it was. And honestly, when I heard there was an exemption, I didn't know if that was a Pro Tour thing. I didn't know if that was just strictly a PDGA thing. I didn't even know it doesn't matter who to really point the finger of blame at, but
you were wrong.
Yeah, me. It was just me because I was
Terry.
reading what was on UDisc, so clearly I'm the idiot here.
This is the guy to point the finger at right here.
Now I know. Good.
I didn't read the competition, whatever that other book is,
manual,
and that that says you have to have a sudden death playoff. And it honestly just never occurred to me that you couldn't do a 2-hole playoff. Like, why would that be a rule? But but that is a rule, and so you need a waiver, and
I
they
think
didn't
it's so
grant
people
it.
can't just make shit up whenever they want.
We're going to an 18-hole playoff.
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna go play with the odd numbered holes, from the short pads and the even numbered holes from the long pads. Like, I think it's for that exact reason. There's a default, and then that's to safeguard so random stuff doesn't just get made up, which lots of TDs would otherwise do. I do love the idea. I'll go on record and agree with you guys. I think that's a great idea. I think
So
yeah.
that error is mine because I didn't ask for the waiver in enough time to give them time to discuss it. So that's on me.
And then we've also seen
maybe
implemented. Go ahead.
I was just saying maybe I should write an email right now saying, "Hey, can we do it next year?"
That would be a good idea. We've also seen implemented the rule that I really also like this year with when it gets to the playoff is that there's a coin that's flipped to determine who goes first. That used to always
I like
be
that rule.
by default the person who had the hotter previous round, so that coin flip, and then having it alternate anytime after that. I certainly like that application as well. So, and I know that's been a Pro Tour thing,
at least for this year.
For this year, yes.
Yeah, I agree with you, Terry. I think that's a great change and another argument for a 2-hole aggregate playoff.
Sure.
Give them an opportunity to obviously if somebody wins the first hole, they're going to go first on the next hole. But maybe it's not obvious actually. So, but give both people an opportunity to go first if it's a tie or the person going second wins.
The only minor downside, and I was thinking about just again the geography, the only super minor downside to 18 then 1, and if you're for sure playing 1, is then picking everybody up and moving them out of where they were, because you're saying they have to stay put, or what?
No, the aggregate was going to be hole 1 and then 18. I wanted them to finish on 18. So
okay. Well,
I don't know where
because that's not how it was listed on UDisc. It was listed as them playing 18 again and then going to 1. So that's how I shared it with the world. So that's where.
So I don't know why. I don't know why it was listed 18-1. It was supposed to be 1 and 18.
Well, that's life, and it's we understand now why.
Yeah.
Why it happened and what's going on.
So did you guys want to talk about FPO now?
Yeah, no, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if there was a tournament. Yeah, I mean, give us your, I mean, okay, Johnny, how about this? Johnny's going to read your top 8 players.
Top 8 players.
Just as a refresher.
Natalie Ryan winning in the playoff over Kristen Tatar. Third place, Paige Pierce making a stellar run after a lot of people have kind of talked about her being on the downslide of her career over the last month, which is insane to me. Holland Hanley tied with Deanne Diesel Carey for 4th place. In 5th place was Evelina Salonen. 6th place, the ageless wonder, Owen Scoggins, who took 4th in the Pro Tour points this year, by the way, might I add. Phenomenal. 8th place, Ella Hansen. 9th place, Macy Veladiez, tied with Henna Bloomroos.
So there's your top 10.
How you say it, Terry? Bloomroos?
That's another topic for another day.
We can get into that later.
So there's your top 10. Quick take on that. Any thoughts?
I would say they all played great to get there.
Yeah.
Are you surprised? I'll follow that up if you're going to be this way.
At the top 4 are some of our furthest throwers. Power throwers, and people don't think of Maple Hill as a power course. Like Natalie Ryan, Kristen Tatar, Paige Pierce, and Holland Hanley. I mean, if you want a distance competition, you pick those 4 practically.
And especially, I'll go ahead and say the women's course, the Diamond course at Maple Hill. About 3 years ago, we made it much more technical, and we started to dial it back to try to balance it out a little bit more with opening up a couple of holes. But I agree with you, Johnny. It's definitely not a distance heavy.
Yeah, so I was a little surprised at seeing, particularly, I mean, Holland Hanley's a phenomenal player. She's a pretty good putter, but she's known for her distance. Natalie Ryan, known for her distance. Kristen Tatar, all-around player. And Paige Pierce, is an all-around good player, but also known for her distance. I mean, you get that way when you're like a 4-time world champ or 5-time world champ, whatever she is these days. 6-time, 8. I'm not sure anymore. Yeah, 5-time world champion.
I think when I see that list, and even in the top 10, as Johnny just read them off, the two names you don't see are the two of the more previous champions that we often see in literally everywhere, Katrina Allen and Sarah Hokom. You know, two women that know the course and know how to win there.
Yeah.
And they're both having, you know, their struggles or not, or they just didn't play up to, you know, to the standards of the other women. But to not see a Katrina Allen or Sarah Hokom, I think it's fair to say that's also pretty surprising, especially given the course and their longevity.
I would agree with that entirely.
So
you guys are very good at this analysis thing.
Yeah, thanks. You know, that's what we do. Okay, maybe not.
And I will go ahead and say when you're running an event, when I'm running an event, I'm not able to pay attention to what's going on during the event. I knew that Deanne Carey had gotten 4th because she hadn't done that well at an Elite Series before, and that was one of the things that I heard about. I did not realize that she had tied Holland Handley, and it makes me a little bit embarrassed because Holland parked in my driveway, and I asked her if she had a good tournament. So, like, I'm just not aware. I know that Kristen and Natalie were in the playoff, but there's a lot of moving parts to an event this big, and I'm not able to be aware of all of the stuff that's going on the course. I'm trying to make sure all the staff and all the spectators and all the players have what they need to be happy.
Yeah, and I when I look at that final round, one of the other major things that just jumps off the page is what Henna was doing out there. The fact that, you know, she had a little bit of a slow start. She was even through 5, but then went on to get 5 birdies in a row, parred 10, and then got 2 more birdies after that. So what is that, 7 out of 8 holes, and was, you know, seemingly just destroying the course, and then ran into a common problem, which is her short-range putting. You know, that happened on 17. We saw that all on air. We didn't see what happened on 18. She have 2 OBs. Is that what I saw?
Yeah,
she had 2 OBs, so that's 18. Easy to add up strokes there. But
especially with the way after 17 went, I mean, she was clearly distraught after her 5 putt on 17.
Yeah.
Just going back and forth on that elevated basket.
So she birdied 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then 12, 13.
No, she 5 through 9 she birdied.
5 through 9. Okay.
Wait, am I looking? Yeah.
No. I apologize. Yeah, 5 through 9,
and then 11 and 12. She missed hole 10.
Oh wow! I would okay.
And I think she had a look at it.
Hole 10 would be. I mean, that's a power hyzer. I think she's got that in her bag.
She does.
She does. Yeah. She missed a circle 2 putt.
Okay.
So she was in circle 2 and missed it, and then hit the circle 1 putt from 15 feet.
Hitting 11 and 12 is pretty good too, and yeah, so that's a great stretch. And yeah, I'm sorry that she ended up with.
Yeah, she went that, triple bogey to finish out. But certainly, you know, was proving though, like, hey, this course can get shredded, and that's exactly what she was doing throughout that section of the course, and was very much making a charge and being in the conversation, but ultimately came up short.
And I did see that the women played much better on Saturday, Sunday than they did Thursday, Friday, with the Thursday obviously with the rain and wind, and then Friday with the tremendous wind. I did see scores getting much better. And when we do our analysis, like we do have to bear in mind the weather is a significant factor. In my opinion, you can't look at Thursday and Friday and say, okay, this course is too hard. You have to look at the days when they had an opportunity to score.
Yeah, and what I think jumped off the page most for me, it was just how glaringly obvious it becomes that wind affects the play so much more than the actual rain. Because the scores from round 1, albeit weren't, you know, wildly amazing, they also weren't as bad as what I feel like they could have been. Like you look at
your top 15, just looking at the scores, averaged, we'll say 2 over par, 1 to 2 over par. For your top 15 players on round 1, other than Natalie Ryan, who shot a +7. So it is kind of amazing that she came back. But then you go to round 2 and you see the scores significantly higher. They look like they're averaging more like, 3 or 4.
Roughly 8.62 over par.
Oh, look,
as a division.
There you go. Wow, Terry.
Roughly.
I never, honestly, and this is a stats thing, I hate looking at that particularly, although that gives you a general good idea. I like to look at usually the top 15 to 20 players, because a lot of times we do see players that I don't want to say should not be playing in the FPO field, but maybe are not at the caliber that we see. So when we see somebody have stroke gained over the field, 10.7, I'm thinking like, yeah, but what are they versus like the top 20 women? But I get it. Like that is a relatively good descriptor of how much worse, because everybody's playing, bad.
So
Steve Dodge. I actually froze.
Or is anybody watching this live?
Yeah, we watch people. Yeah, people watch this live.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a few people there.
There's a few.
Hopefully all of them chime in, so we get a couple of different comments here. My question is, hole 18. I'm ready to switch over to MPO. Are you guys ready?
Yep. Yeah, let's move over to MPO.
On hole 18, that tee was moved back and is pretty darn far back there.
Which year?
And whenever we moved it back to its current location.
That was what? I think that was 3 years ago.
I think it was 3 years ago as well.
But go on.
You can tell that later.
So in 2020 and 2021, it averaged 10% birdies. In 2022, it averaged 15% birdies. And on the final day, overall 2022, on the final day, it averaged 21% birdies, which is kind of amazing. My question is that hole for me, that hole was designed for 2 players, and it's the 2 people that are winning on the final day. And the question is it valid? I've had some players each of the last 3 years say that tee is too far back. You can't go for the green. It's a boring 4. And we've got this year we had 20% in the final round actually get the birdie, which means that probably 40% were going for the birdie. And I wanted to ask the question, is it valid to design a TPad for 2 players?
I think before I can answer that, the question, and we had this discussion with Nate Sexton, Nate Dawson, and myself, which is primarily them, but what is the perfect hole distribution? What is the perfect score distribution for a hole? Like, what is golf or disc golf? What do we consider good scoring distribution? Is that 25% birdie, 25% bogey and worse, and then a 50% in the middle? Like, we genuinely don't know. Is there a consensus on what good scoring distribution should be for a good disc golf hole? Because then I need to know that to answer your question of.
I don't think you do, Terry. And the reason is because on an average hole, you're going to want to have 20 to 40% birdies, and you're going to want to have 20 to 40% bogeys, and then some number in between, whatever, all the rest are pars. You're going to want to have a nice variety there. So some of them you'll have 20% birdies, and some of them you have 40% birdies, and that's an okay range. Maybe even up to 50% if you have like a deuce or die kind of hole, like maybe 15 at Maple Hill. But when you get down to the last hole, then I feel like the number of birdies should be much smaller. You don't want to, in my opinion, you don't want the last hole to be a deuce or die. That would be silly, because you've got the 2 best players at this event who are going to be elite level players who are playing hot, playing an easy hole. They're just going to both birdie. That's silly. So I think you need to challenge them. You need to say, okay, you guys have stepped up for 71 holes. and you are the two men, period. Here you go. This is the hole. It is designed specifically for you in this situation. And that's how I view hole 18 is in this case, it was designed entirely for Linus and Corey. And that was it. Simon, it was designed for Simon as well, but he had already finished. So it was, he had a different choice. He had a different gamesmanship going on.
Yeah, but it's not designed for them if Simon's in the clubhouse with a 3-stroke lead. Then the whole obviously is irrelevant.
Correct.
You know,
yeah.
so
in that case, it doesn't matter how you design 18.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously 18 only matters if there's a 1 or 2 stroke difference. So at that point.
I mean, I think I can understand the players' complaint because I would have to look at who birdied the hole. I mean, because
so
it feels
absolutely, it's a big hole.
You need a very good drive and a pretty good forehand probably. Now we can see some people get out with backhands, but primarily most players are taking a forehand at that second shot, depending on how close you are. I think Corey was close enough where he maybe could have taken a backhand at it because he was like 160 out.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still a funny angle. You're much more reliable with a forehand as far as the way the disc bends. But I mean, I guess I could see a complaint as far as how many people take fours because there are a lot. But I don't know. I like the hole personally. I think that in an age when our players are throwing further and further, it's going. I don't necessarily know if we need to back it up more. But I mean, Corey had a perfect drive and was 160 feet out.
The argument, there's nobody saying we should back it up more.
No.
People are saying let's move it back up to the current blue pad, where Corey Ellis and Gannon Burr and all the guys in the $1 million shot are going to throw it up to the wall and have an 80-foot look at eagle.
Yeah, but you know, again, those are still the elite distance throwers. Everyone else is going to be the 160 out where Corey is, and still have, you know, Corey was with the current pad, and still have a difficult approach getting on.
Correct, but who are you on hole 18? What are you trying to do? That's where I'm going.
Yeah,
and that's the question. Am I trying to separate 20th from 21st? Or am I trying to separate first and second?
I mean, I like it just as we say, it gives everybody a chance to make a decision on that particular hole.
I don't know if I don't feel like it gives your weakest arms even a.
No,
I don't think they even have. Right.
No,
I'm not saying it should, but let's face it, there's some arms out there that would have a hard time. I mean, they would have to throw beyond their perfect second shot to still find it, or no? I guess
mean,
it's only
it's 640 feet, play slightly uphill from that tee pad.
You throw it
if you can throw, most of our pros can throw 400 feet, 450 feet,
I guess.
and that leaves you.
It would require if you can throw 420 feet, it would require a very good second shot to get the birdie. Very low percentage, but if you're in that situation, you got to go for it, and you have a chance.
Yeah.
And that's the goal.
Have you put any thought into Corey's decision? Like, I think everybody sits there and thinks at 160 feet, should he have gone for that for the win versus playing for versus
he had
playing
to go
for the
for
playoff? I agree. I think he kind of.
I've given it no thought. It was a gimme. He had to go for it. It was a gimme decision, not a gimme shot.
Yeah, I mean, I can see the other way. I kind of agree with you. I think that if the playoff starts at 18, there's not a chance he's probably getting to that position again in the playoff.
Or maybe more importantly, where is he going to find an advantage in the playoff against Simon Lizotte, right? Because they're going to 18. They're both going to have to match shot for shot and just replay that hole again.
They're going to play 18 and then 1 was the thought, right?
Yeah.
Right.
18. Then, I mean, arguably, you could say Simon doesn't have a strong forehand right now. Is Simon going to go for that? Green? I don't believe he went for it most. Does Corey, and granted, is Corey even thinking about this, but this is all hindsight 2020 stuff. Corey being one of the best circle two putters in our game, did it make more sense for him to lay it up to the drop zone area where it used to be the drop zone? I think it's OB now, and give himself a 60-footer for the win versus giving himself a 60-footer for
ultimately the push.
Ultimately the push. I can understand. I can understand both scenarios, whether or not he should or shouldn't. I could agree with. I don't think there's a wrong decision, honestly. Had he gone for that 60-footer for a putt to win it, I could look at that and go, well, yeah, he's the best circle two putter we have in the sport. But giving yourself an opportunity to win it,
Corey is one of the players that I personally don't know very well, and so I can't speak to his game or what he was thinking. I believe if he went and stood in that spot 9 times out of 10, he's going to throw that on the green. And I think he's. I would take that bet.
I don't know if it'd be 9. I mean, I think he's getting there 7.
I think 8.
All right, but I mean, in general, it's a higher percentage that he's making it on than he's not, because and
I would take
there's a ton of pressure.
Absolutely, but I would take an 8 out of 10 chance to avoid a playoff and win outright right now. I'm going to take that every time.
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, there is a ton of pressure. I will tell us a wonderful story. This is one of my favorite stories because it ends with me winning.
Spoilers, bro. Damn you. Steve, you're not learning.
Back in the day, the first NIFA tournament that I ever won, I had a 2-stroke lead going on the final hole, and I had about a 25-foot putt with water behind. And the smart play is to lay it up. And I said, you know what? Screw all these people. I want to just bang this thing home, and I'm gonna win this tournament. And my arm was lead, and I was so nervous. And I putt that thing as hard as I can. I made it about 18 feet. And the guy who I had a 2-stroke advantage on said smart play, and I hit my 7-footer and I made it in. But he didn't know I was throwing that disc as hard as I could, and it didn't go anywhere. So pressure is a real thing, and sometimes it bites.
Yeah, sometimes it bites you.
Sometimes it buys you frozen dinners. You there?
He's here.
Yeah, you're back. You were just saying pressure is a real thing, and sometimes it bites you.
Yeah,
and then
I did.
That's what it came down to. And then we saw Simon waiting for 20 to 30 minutes in the scoring room. We were lucky enough to have a camera watching him and Paul interact, and kind of little nervous energy in there, but it was. So
one of the things that I love about the spectators at Maple Hill is if Corey had thrown that on the green, or if Linus had gotten the birdie. It didn't, either one. But if they had gotten the birdie and gotten the win, the fans would have erupted. They would have loved it. Yes, Simon is the hometown favorite. Yes, in their heart of hearts, people probably wanted Simon to win. But if Corey hits that, I'm getting goosebumps right now because I could feel the electricity when that shot was being made. And if that shot went on, there was going to be a ridiculous eruption. People want to see success, especially the Maple Hill spectators. And it was, I believe Simon wanted him to throw that on. Like everybody wanted that shot to go on, and everybody wanted to cheer for that success. When it didn't happen, they were equally, potentially even more, but equally as excited to cheer for Simon coming out of the scoring shed and being crowned champion. But it's nice knowing that no matter how it went down, there wasn't going to be silence. It was like people. Simon's the hometown champion, hometown hero. But if Corey beats him, we are cheering our heads off for Corey.
Yeah, and even as Johnny just had the final round pulled up, I look at Simon's scorecard. Is that the final round?
This is the third and final round.
Yeah. You look at Simon's scorecard, and what I find kind of crazy is that he doesn't birdie. Yeah, of course, he gets 11 birdies out there. Very impressive. But he doesn't get hole 15, and he doesn't get hole 5, two of the easier holes on the course. Now, obviously, he picked up some other bonuses in there. I think I kind of consider 13 a little bit of a bonus. 16 is definitely a bonus, but it's interesting to look at a scorecard like that to see him, go 18 under in the last 2 rounds to shoot 2 over. And as the UDisc probability chart had him going into Sunday morning, they had him as a 3%, probable chance of winning. So again, I'll go back to the numbers. As much as I know you love numbers, what do you think of the one of the other new additions to UDisc and the probability chart, and how much stock should someone like me as a commentator put into those?
I would put a decent amount of stock into them. I think they add to the depth of the story significantly. When Simon is at 3% to start the round and through 6 holes, you notice it's bumped up to 18%. I think that's a really fun I personally think that's a very fun story. And that win percentage chance, I look at that thing in football games. I look at that in baseball games. It's a really fun stat to look at. It has, some I guess, but it has no impact on what actually is going to happen. It's just predictive. But we're looking at one data point. You're rolling a 100-sided die. It could come up a 1. You never know.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing one event, and that the win percentage doesn't have any impact on that one event, but I think it helps build the story. And obviously most times that 3% isn't going to pay off, but in this one case, you never have it. You don't have any idea.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I don't even know if I looked or saw Simon's percentage that morning, and it was pointed out later that it had started at 3%. And obviously that's why we play the game, right? That's why all the fantasy numbers, all the stats don't matter.
Right. One interesting thing about the percentages, in my opinion, as Linus and Corey were teeing off on 18, they on the DGN broadcast, it actually had the percentages in the bottom right, and it had Simon at 35. I think Corey was 33 and Linus was 32% chance of winning, and I thought that's amazing. Because I'm assuming that they're calculating how they normally do on 18. There's all sorts of stats. I don't know if they throw pressure or stress in that statistic, but I never would have given Simon the nod on that. You got 2 big arms who, if either of them birdie, he doesn't win. There's one of them. I would have given both of them a 40% chance and given Simon a 20% chance. But clearly who knows what the odds should have been. Who knows how it would play out. But I was surprised to see that Simon was the favorite on the tee. And I'll go ahead and say that after the drives, the percentages didn't change. So it isn't shot by shot; it's hole by hole.
It is. They've got a whole article where they're basically simulating it like 20 or 30,000 times each for the hole or holes that are like it, similar distance, and you can look at the previous rounds and see that Corey and Linus, none of them birdied 18, not any round.
Oh wow!
So that's probably why the percentages were what they were. Is that they were less likely to birdie, and I guess if you're less likely to birdie, you're more likely to par. But there is the slight chance you're going to take a bogey, as unfortunately we saw with both of them.
So I'm gonna say that stat didn't take into account the fact that it was the final hole and someone's going to push.
That's what I was just thinking. Is like clearly, you could have a great round going, and you get to 18, you're just a little out of position, and you're like, this is a no-brainer. I'm laying this up, and I'm going to get out of here today with a par and not sweat it, knowing, So, yeah. For the reasons you described.
It can't take in every factor into account. I think it just looks a lot at previous scores and history and similarities. So, You put Paul
Yeah.
Macbeth in that percentage, and I bet you he's at like 55 or 60% to win because he's birdied the hole a few times.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
While we're at it, this just came to mind.
Come on, Terry.
Yep. Josh's birthday from UDisc, one of the co-founders
Happy birthday, Josh.
of UDisc, may or may not be out there listening. He should be doing much better things on his birthday, but I believe today, it was either today or yesterday, I believe it was today, is in fact Josh's birthday from UDisc. So happy birthday, Josh.
Real quick, I do just want to
Yesterday.
kind of go through some of the MPO. Simon Lizotte obviously wins in a non-playoff from the chase card.
I was waiting for post-production.
Wait, I have a question for you guys.
Yeah, go for it.
I believe Simon won. We can but regarding Josh's birthday, you said it might be yesterday. Do you mean Tuesday?
Well, for you,
Or-
now
It's still
where is he these days?
It's
Is he
What
out?
time
in
is
your-
it?
It's 11:41.
Yeah,
your
it's
time.
still only
It's
11:41
still
your
Tuesday
time.
Your time.
And he might be
so it's
listening
still-
live because they watch lives from time to time. Some of the
Okay.
UDisc fellers.
So it's still today.
It's still today, but I think it was in fact yesterday, if I recall. My brain, I travel. I believe it was yesterday. Either way, very recently, it was his birthday.
Second place,
So
Corey
Simon
Ellis.
Lizotte won. Yep.
Okay.
Tied for third, Gannon, Byrne, Paul Macbeth. Gannon obviously having that rough hole 14, kind of taking the 5.
16?
No, he
Oh.
he parred 16. He double bogeyed 14.
Wait, didn't he
Oh,
kick
wait.
OB on
Oh,
16?
I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong round.
In
My
round
bad.
2, he double
In round
bogeyed.
2, he double bogeyed. You're right. He double bogeyed 16 in the final round. I was looking at the wrong round.
It was round 2, hole 14 that knocked him out of it.
It
Yes.
was. Had he not I mean, that's the whole. I mean, if you think about it, 16. What's the difference between 16 in the final round and 14 in the other round? 14's an
There's
easier
no
hole than
difference.
16. So, yeah. I mean, hey,
Is that true?
I would think so.
He just blurts it out.
Yeah.
Well, let's
Terry,
look
pull-
at the numbers, folks.
The way I look at it, 16.
Oh man, here we are doing math on the air. So 16 average,
Yeah.
0.09 above par on round 3.
0.09?
0.09 above par. So it played at 3.09, just barely above par. That's 16. And hole 14 played at negative 0.09.
Wow.
14, I mean, just based on the shot, 14 is an easier shot. You throw it off to the left, you end up in the woods. 90% of the time, you're laying it up in front of the basket and tapping in.
Here's the crazy
I feel
part.
like there's some OB on 14.
There is, but you can easily avoid the OB if you play it
So-
really safe.
Terry, look at those stats for Friday.
What's crazy to me
Round
is 31%, 31%
Yeah.
birdies on 14, and on 16, just 17%. But clearly, on 16, if you're not birdieing, you're probably parring, so to speak.
Yeah.
On 14, if you're not birdieing, there's a good chance. Well, yeah,
No.
I don't know.
No, I think scroll back down to 14 and 16 once. Yeah. 16, you've got a much higher bogey rate on 16 because it's bogey versus 14. Like your chance to bogey 16 is much greater than your chance to bogey 14.
See, and I guess I just maybe a lot more people are landing safely, bailing out than finding actual water. I would assume more people would be finding water.
No,
but I guess that's
well,
not
I
the
think
case.
it's easier. Like if I just imagine myself walking up to that hole, my thought is keep it in bounds, dummy. Go left.
Yeah.
Like whatever you do, don't go right. Throw something really stable. Hole 16, I walk up to that hole and go, ooh, that's awfully tight. That's a long tunnel. Like
I'm not hitting that no matter what I do.
Yeah, I could hit a tree and kick off any direction, and there's OB depending on where you go.
Wow.
on 16.
So back on round 1, Steve, to answer you, even though you probably pulled it up.
I just looked.
14 played at 3.16. 16 played at 3.18.
Still harder.
So technically 14 played easier. And I guess since we're here, let's check round 2.
And round 2 was 3.12 versus 3.15. It's
So
kind of
hole
crazy.
14 plays marginally, but razor thin, slightly easier than 16. So I guess the follow-up to that is that obviously surprises you. Is that what you're telling us, Steve?
It does indeed.
Okay.
It's kind of like the Wisconsin electorate.
yeah, too. You're not wrong there. Tied for
It's very, very close.
yes. Ugh. Fifth place, Linus Carlson, who obviously had that he was in a chance to win it going into 18, had a
Crazy.
He just shanked the drive,
Yeah.
hits the tree on the left,
Yeah.
and then goes for you have to at that point go for the something to get up there. Hits the stump
Right.
on the roller, and at that point it was over for Linus. Tied for 6th place, a 3-way tie with Kyle Klein, who we didn't see all weekend. He kind of snuck up
Right.
from like a 4th card or something. Vino Makala and Ricky Wysocki. And then finally, we'll round out your top 10, Jake Hebenheimer and Matt Bell. That's it.
So
Those are your
I
players.
had a very good conversation with Vino, who I had never met before also. And I walked up to, he was in the pro shop, and I walked up to him, shook his hand. I said, "You're a very good disc golfer." And he said, "Thank you." And I said, "Let me know if there's anything about this course that you think we should improve." And he said, "I guess you didn't see my blog where I said that this is the best course in the United States."
Damn.
And I said, "Thank you very much." And I said, "Europe is not in the United States." And he said, "That's correct."
He confirmed that. That's in the control room. We call Vino the teapot because of his putting style. He stands there, he waits, and then he puts his hand on his back and he lifts his hand out so he looks like a teapot. And all of us in the control room, I think maybe except for Mo chuckles, but we all go, "I'm a little teapot," and then he putts every time. It's just, unless he's straddling, then it's a little different. Then he has to kind of put his hand on his hip. But if he's got a normal putt, a staggered putt, it always looks like he's just waiting to do "I'm a little teapot." So that's his nickname in the control room for everybody. That's our inside scoop.
Do you believe what you're missing out on in the control room here, Steve?
I know it's not. It's way more fun with a lot of people.
I do believe it.
Which is why we don't stream the control room.
Yeah.
I've got this
Wait,
little camera.
so
here
did
that-
anybody comment on the whole 18? Should it be designed just for the top 2 guys, or should it be designed for everybody?
I mean,
Did anybody comment on that?
not really. They were just talking about, well, some people do want it shorter because then they want more people going for it. And then I think they said that grows the sport. I lost the connection there, but
Okay.
yeah, somebody did mention that they just basically thinks it should be shorter.
Okay.
But then the Deacon H87 said, "I like the idea of forcing the leaders to do something coming down the stretch, but if it's 50 feet closer, you force everyone to go for it because the upshot will be more than doable and drama ensues."
Well, 50 feet closer, Corey Ellis had a 116-foot shot, which is, I think we'd all agree, is 9 out of 10.
Yeah. I'll give you that. No,
That's a jump putt at that point.
For a lot of
Somebody
those
else
guys, it
says
is.
hole 18 is perfect. People need to stop crying and learn how golf should be played. It's not about an easy par 4 because those holes are bad. So, yeah.
I find the term perfect funny because we have seen so many people be like, "No, Maple Hill's perfect." And they said this 8 years ago.
I was going to say, we've changed it every year.
And Maple Hill changes every single year. Mo and I had this discussion about hole 4, which he has said has never changed.
Correct. That is true.
There's been Mandos or not.
Correct.
And then there's been
We did add a
sidewalls.
Mando.
Sidewalls.
We
And
did add
then
a
the
Mando.
green
basket.
changed, and then behind the basket changed, whether or not you could go OB.
Exactly.
Yeah, holes 4 changed all the time.
I think his point was the pin position hasn't changed on
Sure.
hole 4, but it's been
And the tee
elevated.
hasn't changed, and we didn't move any of the trees.
Correct, but it's we argue that these holes are perfect. I didn't like the change on hole 2.
Yeah, so talk about that. I was
Oh,
going to
right.
go there.
With
the rocks.
with the rock wall. I like the fact that players can go at it with a roller, and we did see Matt Bell still go with the roller and make it through the woods. So
So I thought you were talking about the change like 8 years ago when we moved the pin back,
no, I like that change.
or the tee back. Like, we moved that
I
back.
didn't like the
and
first
it's-
change. I liked the second one. I definitely didn't like the third one, but this fourth one I don't like.
So talk to us about the rocks.
Sounds like a
on-
2, 1, and 1.
Two.
Well, I'm just kidding. I have no clue. So
I know.
The rocks on 2.
So the rocks on 2. So number 1, did you notice that the fairway on hole 18 did not have any of those huge rocks on the upper corner near the drop zone?
No.
I didn't particularly notice that.
Those rocks are all gone.
Where'd they go?
That was
Did
hole
they get
2.
up and rock away?
So we had a guy come with a huge claw, and I actually asked him. I said, "How heavy is that rock?" And I said, "Is that about 2,000 pounds?" He said, "That's 8,000 pounds." And I said, "How do you know that?" And he said, "Because my vehicle can lift 8,000 pounds, and this is right on the edge." Like he was like, as he lifted it up, like the back end comes up, and he's got a like. It was very exciting.
Hmm.
Probably for
Another
him as
insurance
well.
policy was written before that one.
FOIA insurance. So we moved. I needed somewhere to put all those rocks, and I've always wanted the green of hole 2 to be flat, and so those rocks are the beginning of that green becoming flat.
Okay.
So over time, we will continue to build up that wall, and then it'll fill in. And this is probably a 5-year plan. But then that'll fill in with dirt, and we'll put grass on it. And then when you land in the creek, you'll have a 5-foot wall in front of you. You've got to either get up on the green, or you've got a really hard shot at the birdie.
Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, the thought was that you just did that to take away the roller option.
No, not at all. I don't care about rollers.
All right.
Yeah, no, this had nothing to do with rollers. This was a long-term plan towards making that green beautiful.
Yeah, you should have told me all this like a week ago.
Would have been helpful on the broadcast.
Wait,
did you
was
not
I
do
on
your
the
research?
podcast?
Did you not call Steve Dodge a week before and just have a good talk about the changes? I mean, that's your job as a commentator. What are you doing in your off time?
I was practicing my 400-foot hole-in-one $25 shot that I had lined up. It's not quite the same. Okay, so no other significant there is another significant change that I don't feel like was the case last year. Well, it was much lower and less pronounced, in my opinion, in that there's a backstop. There's a wall on the back of 8. And why
Yes.
people that's inbounds. I think that's maybe the most crucial part. That's inbounds.
Yes.
We should never see a person come up short. Like, I get it, you're trying to get it as close to the basket as possible.
Oh, no.
But you
No,
should
you're wrong,
never
Terry.
come up short. Is that right?
That is not right.
You're wrong.
You can scoot underneath that wall.
Really? There's a space in there?
There's big spaces.
Good.
Yeah.
Did I fit there?
I don't know if
Not that big.
I don't know. I don't know if they could. You fit there? Yeah, easy.
I did not. We heard a bunch of bank shots. We heard it hitting the wall, skipping up, hit the wall, maybe on the fly once or twice. Like I didn't realize there was a space underneath the wall. So you're saying you could land, and you could, if you're just coming in slow enough, you could just scoot right out underneath the backside of the wall.
Scoot is the right word. Scoot.
Yeah, because you're not really skipping at that point. You're sliding.
You might
boot
be
scooting.
boogie
underneath it. Okay.
Yeah, so you want to land it on that green. You do not want to rely on that wall.
Okay.
Relying on that wall is you're hoping to get lucky.
It's a fool's errand, Terry.
So Adam, who I think was
errand.
out there on 8, says 8's wall should go all the way to the ground. We talked about putting umbrellas to stop the disc from going OB. I'm just reading from what the chat says, but
I tried that last week. It didn't work so well.
But so you're saying
That's a
by
good
design,
idea.
it does not go all the way to the bottom. And is that wall out there permanently? Like if I went out there in a month, will that wall still be there?
So yes, it will still be there. I think that I agree with Adam, and I think that we might build that wall all the way to the ground.
Oh.
We did not build it all the way to the ground yet because we're not 100% sure on that. But surprisingly, I haven't heard any pushback from the players about the wall not going all the way down. Um, uh,
If it goes
so,
all the way to
but the reason that wall,
if it goes all the way to the
the
ground, then
reason that,
aren't we just going to see players attack it?
yeah.
I don't like that.
So, but the reason that wall was built in the first place is the Pro Tour has a really good policy, which is that the course assets, like the walls that they build on the course, the advertising walls, cannot be OB walls. And I think that's a good policy because those are just built the week before. It's not the way the course is, any course is normally played.
We've seen things
Yeah.
kick them and move them, and they change throughout the weekend. Yeah.
So wherever those walls are, if there's OB near them, the OB is, you know, a yard or a meter off of it or so. And unless the wall is permanent, they don't want to allow advertising walls to be OB. And so I said, well, I want a permanent wall there then, because that the goal of that wall is to be the OB. And logicking through this, therefore, it should, I agree with Adam again, it should go all the way to the ground. But right now, it does not go all the way to the ground. So your thought about people just running that thing nice and hard and low is not correct yet.
Well, I guess I just generally mean if it's coming in hot, there's a certain degree in which it may skip up and just bank right off the wall, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
You should just really never be short.
I saw a disc. You shouldn't be short. There's water there.
Yeah.
I saw a disc skip up over the wall. So that can definitely happen. I didn't see anything to the Johnny V boot scoot.
Okay. So maybe one of the, as we start to wrap up here, because I think we could go all day. Of course, the Tour Points champion, you had the MVP Open Champions crown, obviously, and then we had the Tour
I'm
Points.
sorry the name's so long for you, Terry.
I know.
you barreled through it.
Well, I'm thinking the Maple Hill Open. Yeah. Like I said, I finally have it down, kind of. So
kind of.
We then also see that this year, final event on the Pro Tour, which again feels weird to say. Well, it's the final event of. It's not the regular season. It's the final playoff event, but yet we go into a championship. But anyway. When you originally had designed the Pro Tour Championship to be the culminating event, I think since day one, and I think the internet proved it yet again today, since day one, there's been a little confusion about what those titles are and what they mean. As in, there's a final event winner at the Pro Tour Championship, but there's also an overall points leader. And I know I'm saying
Correct.
Those, and it doesn't sound too hard, but to a lot of people, it's confusing, and I understand that. What was your thought process?
It's a season. There? It's a season. There's a season champ, and there's a Super Bowl champ, or the Tour Championship champion. So there's two distinct champions. My brother's a big fan of soccer, and I learn a lot from his enjoyment of the game. And I'm under the impression that, and soccer buffs can correct me if I have heard him wrong, but I'm under the impression that there is someone who has the best record, and that is the season champion. And then they have the playoffs, and there is the playoff, I guess the playoff champion, or the person who wins the cup, as it were. But the season champion is recognized as a significant victory, as well as the overall the winner of the playoff. And so, in my opinion, the season champion should be exalted, as well as the person who wins the finals.
Well, this is the Ricky discussion.
To some degree, and I wasn't necessarily just trying to dig into what Ricky has been talking about, but just in general, I was looking for your design or your thought process to why, because it rightfully so, it confuses a ton of people when it comes down to, you won the Disc Golf Pro Tour
points.
title, championship. Like,
See, you're the season champion.
Yeah, you're the points champion. You're not necessarily
Yeah.
you're not necessarily the Pro Tour championship champion.
I know.
I personally would say that the person with the most points is the season champion.
Yeah.
Calling it the points champion, that sounds silly. But to me, I would say they're the season champion. Not that it matters very much, but so I think that those are both things that are worth celebrating.
I agree.
Oh, having said that, Simon won 4 Pro Tour events and got 6th place. And it makes me think maybe first place should get some more points. I know that Simon is very inconsistent. He what he said was I get first or 30th. So there's it's rewarding consistency over victories, but it feels like maybe victories should matter a little bit more in the season champion. But that's a decision for somebody else to discuss. But
Simon also played poorly, very poorly, at one of our playoff events at GMC where he earned not very many points, so to speak, and those can't be dropped. Those are automatically added
that's
on.
right.
So
You're right.
there's a premium to playing well the last 2 events
already. And he played poorly at Champions Cup, which is a major where you get like point and a half or double points. So
so maybe it is. Yeah, maybe it is about right then.
Yeah, I mean, if we were just if we were just talking DGPT events, then I think there's definitely discussion. I would have to look, and I'm not going to ever, at how he did without the majors. But correct, his major count was not good. He did not play well at the majors, from what I gather.
Yeah.
And UDisc, if you're listening,
I know what you're gonna say.
Give me a left and right scroll bar. And if you don't mind, I would kind of like it if the most recent event was first. That's iffy, though. I might be unique there. But give me a left and right scroll bar in the standings.
Do you know what UDisc needs?
More suggestions from us?
You know what you should do? Yeah. My favorite words in disc golf after I gave them to Steve earlier.
When you're looking at the standings, because you get your best, I don't even know what it is, eight Elite Series and your best 3 Silver Series and all of the majors, right?
Something like that, yeah.
So I feel like they need to have something that indicates how many of those events they have. Like if you're looking at this, like Kristen's on top and Paige is second. But it's possible that like if Paige has only played 7 Elite Series and Kristen's played 8, then the next one for Kristen is actually a replacement, and the next one for Paige is an addition. And I think that's an important thing to notate, because and obviously this isn't the way it actually is, but while in that case, Paige would actually have a significant advantage after the points of the next event because they're being added as opposed to replaced. So
yeah, I think those
when I look at,
I was just gonna say I think those are all really. I agree, and I think it would be great. I think it's there's something to the programming of Elite Series versus Silver Series, and then the majors, all of them having the different point totals, and then which one are they playing in or not versus which ones get dropped. Yeah, it's crazy, and there's a good reason why within the broadcast booth we have very much said, like, we're not getting into these scenarios of, well, if so-and-so does this and so-and-so does that, but I'm not about to try and do that math. If somebody really smart, writes up that code in those equations, great, I'll read them, but I'm not about to try and figure it out because they're impossible.
It is very hard to figure out. And sometimes on my screen, I'll just put like little stickers on there, but then when I scroll, the stickers don't go up and down with it. And
Can you just
need a touch screen? You need a touchscreen monitor. That'll fix it.
But the stickers are still just on there.
Yeah. Well, not if it's touchscreen.
You use Microsoft Post-it? Maybe. I don't know.
Have you talked to your friend Clippy with Microsoft?
Are you trying to write a resume? Yes.
I am now, damn it. With all the dumb shit I did today. Anyway. Uh, Flipping back real quick, of course, Disc Golf Pro Tour wrapping up with then Kristen Tatar, the first person not named, Pierce or Allen or Holcomb to have won this, and clearly just destroying everybody in the last few events specifically, in addition to playing well throughout the year, but just really blazing past everybody in the last few events. What does that say for disc golf to have a woman from Estonia as our season champion on the Disc Golf Pro Tour? What does that say about the Pro Tour and about disc golf in general?
So this was the 7th Pro Tour season. It's really, really exciting to watch the Pro Tour come into its own. Back in the early days, I did an interview before the MVP Open, and we talked about back in the early days when people were like, would you rather win an NT or win a Pro Tour? And obviously in 16 it was an NT, and in 17 it was probably an NT, and in 18 maybe we had some parity, and in 19 it was a Pro Tour. The Pro Tour has come in my opinion has gone through its youth and has started its life as an adult, and I think Kristen is a representation of that. We've successfully gotten large enough so that the best players in Europe will come over and compete. And hopefully next year, 2023, we will have a whole cadre of Europeans over here competing for titles on the men's and women's side. And if the Pro Tour was a person, I think we've gotten to be about 18 or 19 years old. We're still going to make plenty of mistakes, but we've got a lot of energy and a lot of excitement, and we're just driving forward. And I'm ridiculously excited. It's so much fun. One of my favorite things to do is to sit down with Jesse on the couch and watch DGN and listen to Terry and listen to Nate Doss and listen to Nate Sexton and all the crew. And it brings me endless joy, and I'm really excited to watch this continue to bloom and be ridiculously exciting, pretty much week in and week out. I don't know how the players do it. I don't know how you guys do it. I got to witness how they set up the courses, and they're becoming a machine. They know what they're doing, and the future looks very bright for the Pro Tour. I'm excited.
What would you say is next? Like what is either needed or is just or what will just come naturally, or what's needed, or where does the bar get raised next in terms of
needed?
Yeah, I mean, what would be on your, whether it's a wish list or a or a vision from day one?
What percentage of people have cable television? Needed. I don't know what's needed. We have DGN, and I can, if I'm a PDGA member, so I can pay $6 a month, something like that, and watch all the disc golf that I want. I think over time the broadcast will continue to improve. I can't imagine it continuing to improve at the rate that it has been improving. Back 4 years ago, 2018, we were happy to cover the lead card. We spliced in the women. We had to have ads at certain times because people walk down fairways. Like it was a very structured program because we had 3 cameras or maybe 2. Like it was, and now I clearly there's at least 4, maybe 6 cameras out there. I can't see it getting 8. Seriously, 8 cameras?
8 cameras if you include the commentator, which kind of counts as a camera, but there's usually 7. There's usually 3 on the lead, 2 on the chase, 1 as a roamer. Sometimes we have I think it's called an FX6, which is like our slow-mo cam, or a drone, depending on what's going on. And then the commentator technically takes up a camera slot.
8 cameras. That is That is very, very exciting. I remember, you're right. We always had cameras on the commentators because we never knew, what's going on the course. Just cut to the commentators. We showed them a lot more back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
That's
did.
why.
The
That's why I
petitions
wanted to
are
be a
running
commentator.
wild to get back more to the booth. No, they're not.
More to the booth. Yeah. Power to the Terry. What do we need? I don't know what we need. I'm not the man. I'm content with where we are. This is exactly what I wanted. And obviously, the next step is to get on broadcast television, but I'm not in any hurry. I think it's important to keep building our foundation, and in my opinion, let them come to us. We don't need to go to them. We're good where we are. The longer it takes for us to get on broadcast television, the bigger our base is, and the more strength we have in negotiations with broadcast television. So I'd say take our time. Don't be in a rush to take the next step because it's a really big step.
Do you, in speaking of big steps, do you feel like there's a world where FPOs and MPOs are, I'll call them a separate tour, but maybe that's not the exact phrasing, but they're either at different parks or different weekends or whatever the case may be? Do you see them either splitting, or do you see, or any other vision? Like, do you see a world where, hey, our FPO field, because it continues to grow or wants to grow, and we have 80 women at every event. Right now we have 40 to 50, sometimes could be 60, 70, or 80. Do you see FPO either needing or being viable to have FPO have a different tour? Or separated, maybe is a better word.
I remember 3 or 4 years ago talking with a lot of the women on tour and asking them, at what rate should we grow the women's side of the women's side of these events? So at the time it was 140 men and 24 women, and now it's 120 men and 60 women. And should we just try to get down to 90 and 90 and call it? Or like, what's the right thing to do, and how fast do you do that? These are really, really good questions. It feels to me, I have nothing to do with the management of the Pro Tour. I have nothing to do with any of the decision making. That we should make that very, very clear.
Neither do we, so that's good.
But
yeah, there's along for the ride.
But it feels to me that the women are not quite ready to go out on their own. And I feel like the draw of having the women eyeballs and the men eyeballs all in one bucket encourages larger non-endemic partners to come on board. If they were split, I think we'd lose some of that opportunity. Having said that, at some point, hopefully it'll be obvious that it needs to happen. I always said that I don't want to hire shuttle drivers until it's obvious it has to happen. This year, it's now obvious. So I suspect the same thing is going to happen with the women. It will become obvious when that split needs to happen. Someone will have seen it a year earlier, and someone might not quite see it. But for the powers that be, it'll be obvious. I would just say that I hope that they stay in the same area, town, region. I would be sad if the men were playing Maple Hill and the women were playing De La Viega. Like that would make me sad, because I like the energy that comes to a town when we're all together. But who knows? I'm an old idiot, so who knows?
I mean, I just think of the logistics of running two separate tours and what needs to happen as far as, I mean, imagine having to run two Maple Hills or MVP Opens, or, that, because, we're going to want one for FPO and one for MPO. And if they're not the same time, you're doubling your resources, twice the volunteers. You've got parking things again, like expenses. And
If we can stay as a playoff event with a smaller field, then maybe it's a playoff event that the men and women can be together, and that can be a celebration.
Sure.
But I get your point,
Yeah.
and if you're going to you're going to Akron, Ohio, the tour has a stop there, and I just picked that out of the air. I don't know anything, but then the men play at Akron A and the women play at Akron B, and hopefully they're in my opinion they should all. I'd love us all to be together. I don't if this ever happened, yeah, I'd want to make sure that there can be a players party where everybody's together.
Yeah, I don't think. Gosh, I kind of see this our growth as starting. I don't want to say plateauing, but it's not growing at the rate it was, and I don't see us needing to split tours 7-10 years at best.
I was going to say 6 to 8 was my guess.
Like if we continue at a decent growth rate, like we could plateau off. We could spike again. I don't know why we would or anything like that. Anything is possible, but I just think of all the logistics of broadcast and tour and fundraising and things like that of what would have to happen, and it's mind-blowing to me. So
yeah. Well, it's mind-blowing to me. They've got 2 trailers now leapfrogging each other, setting up we started setting up the course before GMC began. And or no, I guess it was Friday during GMC. But I was so excited that we could do that, and they do so much work. We have a lot of staff to help, but the work that the Pro Tour puts in is phenomenal. They do a great job.
Is there, for many years, Maple Hill had happened before GMC. This year, obviously, happening after. Do we feel like that's going to be a constant conversation, or is that just timing because of certain things that need to happen up at GMC with Fall Fest? Like, what's that conversation like? And do you see, obviously, next year throws things out the window, being that the World Championships are going to be taking place there in early September. But
the schedule's about to be announced, by the way.
Oh, well, so again, next year's already an anomaly. But
sometime
should we wait?
In future years, though, is there something to be said about you being the final playoff season, event? Is that something you're hoping to lock in?
I think it was like 2005 or 6 or 7 when we became an NT for the first time, and from the very beginning, I have always said I will hold my event in April and I will hold my event in September, whatever works best for the schedule. I feel like the tour is larger than any particular event. Well, obviously that's true, but and so I'm more than happy to have the MVP Open at whatever time works best for the tour. If the tour decides, hey, we want to be in the Northeast in the summer because it's nice and cool, that's great. We'll be happy to do that. If they decide that they want to have the playoffs on the West Coast, I'm fine with that too. Okay. When it comes to when we are, I'm a team player. We were very honored to be a playoff event this first time that they had playoff events. I look forward to seeing what the playoff events develop into, so that they have maybe a little special flair to them. Maybe the winner of a playoff event gets an extra bye in the tour championship or something. I don't have any idea what could develop so that it's a little more special. But we're happy to be whenever. We just look forward to being a part of the Pro Tour for a long time.
Okay.
It would be really interesting to see the tour path change, almost reverse the way we are. Just have Vegas towards the end of the year one year, and then Kansas, DDO isn't in April or May, it's in August, which August in Kansas sounds miserable, but to change it up, just just in general, but nobody wants to be in Vegas in July. So, but just see a West Coast swing towards the end of the season and start over on the East Coast. It would be fun to kind of reverse course once in a great while. But I understand logistically.
I wouldn't reverse course because it's fun.
No, it has to have a logistic reason.
Yeah, I would look at and I'm confident that Jeff Spring and the Pro Tour look at this holistically and say, let's look forward 3 or 4 years and where do we need to be? They're starting to develop the wraparound season, so they want to continue to develop that. And then what does that mean for the Southeast? What does that mean for the Northeast? What does that mean for Europe? What does that mean for South America, Mexico? What does that mean for Japan? Like there's lots of implications here, and I suspect that Jeff is looking at this whole thing, and crew are looking at this whole thing with their eye on the entire basket. And I'm happy to shift wherever needs be to make the tour work as good as it can work. And I feel like that's the way every TD on the tour feels, is the tour succeeds and we succeed.
Well, I'm not all that smart, but I'm guessing you're going to be 2 weeks after Worlds wraps up next year. I can't imagine you'd be the week after.
No, they would have a week break.
But who knows? You must know when you are next year, right, Steve? Maybe.
What?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Hello?
I'm going to end with this. I have a secret but mildly clever idea that I'm going to text you tonight that you have to give me first access to, and then you'll take it and run with it on your own. But I've got a great sponsorship idea.
Does it involve waking me up?
Yeah. So we'll share that quickly. I had asked Steve yesterday about being on the show. He eventually I got a yes after some what's the word I'm looking for? Cryptic messaging. Eventually I get a yes. And then tonight, I send him the link, as we do for all of our guests, a little link to connect to. And then after about 5 minutes went by, I realized that it was 9:45 East Coast time. And I also just took a wild stab that Steve either forgot and or just flat out went to bed. And so thankfully I called him, and in his most sleepy voice, hey, woke up. So that's your official pass. Some people were saying, hey, all this blazer talk, where's the suit coat or the blazer? And I said, to be fair, he just got up 4 minutes ago before joining us on the show. So
he's lucky to have a shirt. And I would encourage people, now that they know that, go back and look at the beginning of this. And I'm just like I don't have any idea what I'm talking about at the beginning of this. I still don't, but but at the beginning it was maybe a little worse.
I'm just going to derail this completely. My only question is that an original Commodore 64 back there?
Yes.
Okay. I know they did a repop version of it a couple years ago, but
so let's close this out on a strong note, Terry. And
as opposed to the shitty way I was going to do it. Yeah, go for it.
So Jesse's the one that woke me up. Like she's like, your phone's ringing. I was like, what? What's going on? It felt like it was ringing for hours.
Uh-huh.
But so yeah, one of the fun things that happened because the tour came here when it did is we kind of made my office into something real. And so we have here, this is my original version of Photo, what is it, Premiere?
Adobe. Yeah, Premiere.
Adobe, yeah, the Premiere, the whole production suite. That's what it says right there. And that's what I use to mix the 2004 MSDGC DVD and all the other ones.
Nice.
Here's the old biddies. These are the prototypes of our games that are coming out Kickstarter this fall. There's my original house in 2003. And then this is the 2003 PDGA course guide that has all sorts of notes about the 150 courses we played before we built Maple Hill. I went around the country and played some of the best courses. And then here's my collection of trading cards. I don't know if you can see those.
Yeah.
Some of those are pretty valuable now,
Steve.
Some
of those are worth a lot of money.
So you got Ricky and Katrina and Paul, and you got all the course events, the event things. And then look at this funny one.
Wow.
You see that one?
Is that a unique one?
There he is.
A Steve Dodge card?
I
Is
have
that
no
a
idea
one
if
of
I'm doing
one?
this right.
Yeah, you're almost got it.
Whatever. Yeah, and then the Commodore 64, and then the
Silly
year one
pints.
Silly Pints. Yeah. So all the good stuff in that cabinet right there.
Yeah.
Oh, and you guys might recognize this: the very first Disc Golf Pro Tour computer.
Oh yeah.
Sure, I do remember that.
Yeah, that thing really
Yeah.
hauled, as they would say.
Oh, it's a Chromebook.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Because we
you're
had
trying to edit
$8.
footage off a free program on using a Chromebook. Chromebook,
Well,
yeah.
I think it was called We Video.
Yeah.
Made a
Yeah.
lot of the first videos for that first season.
Nailed it. Well,
That's where the salmon commercial came from.
Yes, it is. And I want to say thank you to the 12 people that signed up to get salmon delivered to their door.
Hopefully they enjoyed it.
That's what kept the tour rolling. All right, buddy. Well, we will let you go. We appreciate you. We appreciate Jesse for waking you up so that you could fulfill your obligation of joining us tonight. And of course, the entire world appreciates. If they don't appreciate what you've done and will continue to do, then they're idiots. And
We'll keep reminding them.
Yeah, we will keep reminding them because we largely wouldn't be where we are if it weren't for you and your vision, and we appreciate the heck out of it.
I am always willing to try things, and the Pro Tour is one of those things. And we had a lot of love and heart and push and people working together and trusting in the dream and willing to literally work for nothing. And we successfully built it to a point where enough people cared about it that somebody thought it was worth saving. So yeah, we did a lot of good work. We got lucky sometimes, got unlucky sometimes, and I'm truly blessed to be in the position I'm in. I found Jesse. My daughters are growing up great, and I live at Maple Hill. I mean, life is pretty good, and I thank everybody for helping me get here.
Well, like I said, the entire disc golf world, ourselves included, owe you just an unfathomable amount of gratitude, and we appreciate you for your vision, your love, and your heart and soul and compassion, everything that you have given to disc golf to put us where we all are. So we love you, buddy. You're welcome here anytime, even when you're not running a Disc Golf Pro Tour major playoff event or whatever. You're welcome here anytime to join us, even if you got to pitch some of your new board games or whatever you're doing. But anytime, you're always welcome. Thank you. Hopefully we'll talk to you again sooner than later, buddy.
Good night, friends.
Good night.
Good
See ya.
night, buddy.
That
Special
guy.
thanks to Steve Dodge for joining the show tonight. We know it's late over on the East Coast, and I'm sure he's tired after an exhausting week. I know he's got a big staff, but he still puts a lot of it on his shoulders, and it's good to be Steve.
Yeah,
most of the time.
Yeah, and can't say it enough. All right, I want to touch on one other, I don't know, disc golf related item quickly that I saw today. If it hasn't been said enough already, of course, congratulations, Ricky Wysocki, your season tour champion, along with Kristen Tatar winning it on the FPO side. Congrats to both of them. And then, of course, congrats to Natalie Ryan for winning, and congrats to Simon Lizotte. So if that wasn't obvious enough throughout the day, we thank you guys. Aaron says, I still have beef with Steve, and that couldn't be any more incorrect.
That you have beef with him?
Yeah, never.
I mean, would you have steak with him? Maybe
no,
not, maybe not beef.
I'd have chicken, or he'd mix me up some peanut butter sandwiches like we were once eating on the tour. And yeah. So the other quick thing that I wanted to talk about that I saw on the internets just today, so it's probably old news. Yeah,
it's probably fake.
No. We saw that it was pretty cool that they put up an official marker and TPad and I think not time. I don't know if time capsule is quite the right
No,
word.
they did actually do a capsule underneath of the
yeah.
TPad.
So all of that for James Conrad and the Holy Shot out there at the course, out there at the fort. So I saw it earlier today, and I wanted to make mention of it. I thought that was pretty cool that they are permanently commemorating that incredible
The Holy
spot
Shot. So
and
you can
shot
try
and
to
everything else.
recreate it.
Yeah.
You can go to the TPad and throw it yourself.
And too bad you didn't have even that's more favorable for you. Not only don't you have thousands of people watching
You have a
applying
TPad.
pressure, you have an actual TPad. The question is, and I did see it, but I didn't inspect it for too long. It doesn't look like a James Conrad approved TPad. It needed to be about 3 times.
Hopefully,
longer.
it's as long as the amount of steps he took.
Okay,
Because he didn't have a huge run up for that.
That's true. That's true.
Now, a normal TPad for him would.
Exactly. So, yeah, that was pretty cool to see them out there. That was just posted, I think, earlier today. I don't know. Is there anything else actual golf related that needs to get covered before we close out? Head to an after show. I know that was pretty long, our longest probably interview of the year, which seems very fitting and appropriate.
Very appropriate. I don't even know if I'm going to bother. Last week for Ricky's interview, I cut out just the interview and I uploaded it to our website, or uploaded it to YouTube. I don't know, bother doing it with Steve Dodge because it's been the whole show.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
So, all right. Well, then, unless you have something crucial that you feel like needs to get mentioned here in the regular show,
I don't, Terry.
I'll close out our regular show, and then we could start talking a little after show action if you'd really like.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Well, we're going to thank Steve Dodge, our guest tonight. And thank you to, of course, everyone over on the Disc Golf Pro Tour and the Maple Hill side of things to pull off the event that they did. Clearly some very difficult decisions, but also just a ton of work to have everything go down the way that it did on that opening day, then to be able to still provide us all of that coverage and action during the next 3 days, along with extra work in terms of pulling off the $1 million shot presented by East Coast Metal Roofing. But it just, yeah, everybody on the ground doing so much extra work, and you don't think about it because they're just providing you the coverage, but it's just showing up on your screen is what I should say. But the guys that are putting in those extra long days to battle the winds and the rain as cameramen and as setup and takedown and the spotters, just everyone. And I can't imagine standing out in the rain for 8 hours or whatever, also trying to like park people. It's just such an effort that it takes. So for Steve Dodge, along with Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. That's been podcast 422. We're going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back with our after show. We have some giveaways and some other stuff to talk about. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV's podcast 422's After Show. That's what I needed.
An after show?
More mic time.
You didn't get enough of it this weekend, Terry. It was only like 8 hours a day, 8 to 10.
Yeah. 8 out of 11 days. Doing
at least
doing back-to-back weekends.
You got a week break, then you do USDGC and the DGBT Tour Championship.
Yeah, so just to throw it out there quick, and we'll talk USDGC.
Ooh,
yeah,
drama.
Yeah, and it's funny because I'm of course the caddy guide was posted, so we'll talk a little bit about some of the changes. But what I'll quickly say is, as of next week, I think you're going to see a show take place, I believe, on Monday. I hope I'm not spoiling anything. On Monday, Brian Earhart and I will be working on a live show that's going to come to you guys Monday at the USDGC. So
like a qualifier show?
Yeah, something of that. We're going to do some other things, but that's 6 days from now. Of course, then there's going to be a press conference a couple days later. Then you're going to see Thursday through Sunday for the show of both Throw Pink in the morning, USDGC in the afternoons. And then there's going to be post-production that's going to be put together as well. All part of your Disc Golf Network subscription, all of those things. And I'm going to be part of that. And then a day or two later, heading out to Bend so I'll speak for myself in this case. I am going to be part of the FPO post-production. I'm also going to be part of that one show with Brian. And then I'm also going to be doing interviews and other things to get additional content as MPO players come off the course during the USDGC show. So that's kind of my assignment. The following week, I am back in the studio in Bend. And every morning, myself and Val, every afternoon, myself, Nate Doss, and Nate Sexton. So that's kind of how things are going to be unfolding. And then everyone's going to collectively take a pretty big, deep breath, I think. Largely our live broadcasting. I mean, if we got Silver Series, we have other stuff, but the biggest of the biggest then will be concluded.
It slows down. The season slows down.
Yeah, very much so. All right. If you're new to the after show, we're here. We largely interact with things that come in off of the YouTube or Facebook chat board. So if there's something you want us to talk about or address, the best part is it does not have to be disc golf related. Commonly it is, but it could be really about anything and everything else. And we could talk about it here. We usually stay clear of politics and religion, but otherwise we're pretty much here for it. I'm going to lead in the random category of actually downloading something from Netflix and watching something new this week. I watched two.
What did you watch?
Over the journey to Sweden and back. I didn't watch a lot of it, but out to Bend and back, I ended up taking in a couple of shows that were new to me. One of which is not new to anyone, is my understanding. But let me find them. No, I'm not watching Dahmer yet, which I know is definitely...
I'm not going to bother.
Yeah, so like Johnny and I lived about... Originally, when that was happening, we were about 2 hours north. We weren't in Milwaukee yet. But a lot of the Dahmer story is taking place within 15 or 20 minutes of where we're sitting right now. And so I'm not going to say it hits closer to home.
No.
Because, again, at that time... we were living 2 hours north of here, but yes, we certainly knew of it, of what had been going on. So the first show, which is very hit or miss, I don't know if I was just delirious one day. The first time I pulled up episode 1, I think I was crying at one point. I was laughing so hard. And then other skits and other shows, not one crack or smile. I think you should leave with Tim Robinson.
Oh my God, no, it's the best. Have you got to season 2?
I don't think so. I don't even know where I am.
Have you got to the coffin bit?
Now, funny enough, I didn't realize that. That's funny you say that.
Yeah.
I saw that on Facebook a long time ago, or some other clip.
Yeah.
And maybe you even showed me.
It was probably me.
I didn't even realize that was from this show. I had forgotten it. I'd seen
Yeah,
it months
no.
ago. And so, yes, I have seen it. Yeah, I did see it again.
It's hilarious. That whole season is pretty much hilarious. There's one or two I think that fall a little flat.
Yeah,
but,
there's a number of sketches where I'm just like,
Tim Robbins in the hot dog costume. I just saw that so funny.
The only problem I have with it, here's my quick review and take on it, is most of his, I don't want to call them the funniest skits, but a lot of his skits always are reduced to him just screaming at somebody. If you really think about it,
a little bit, yeah.
Most of his skits that hit are the ones that somehow result in him just screaming loudly at someone. So, yeah, again, I realize I'm behind. When there's 2 seasons?
Yeah, there's 2 seasons.
Okay, so I'm not that far behind.
I think that season 2 came out at the beginning of this year.
Oh, okay.
And season 1 was at like because I think I watched that a little over a year ago.
Okay.
I started watching it.
Yeah, this was no more. Just so you people know, when I Netflix, which is usually only for plane rides
and chill.
Yep. It's there's a randomness to it. Usually, I'll go. My default is to go straight to comedians' stand-ups, like a release of a comedian doing their stand-up or whatever,
or Jersey Shore, one of the other,
or Jersey Shore. No. That's where I usually default, and then somehow, more often than not, excuse me, I'm flipping to some kind of a comedy or something. So that's how I randomly found that. The other one that I'm now only 2 episodes in, no, 1, because I didn't download episode 2 yet. Afterlife?
Oh, is that the one that
with Ricky Gervais?
Oh, no, that's not the one I'm thinking then.
It very much feels like his routine just inserted into a show.
Did you ever
Seinfeld
watch?
Like here's my life. Here's how I am in my comedy routine. I mean, obviously, there's some uniqueness to the.
Did you ever watch? You probably never watched Extras or anything like that. He's done a couple different series, obviously, besides The Office originally, where it's a lot like, I think all of his series are kind of similar. I mean, it's hard not to with his sense of humor. Where there was one where he basically was an actor looking for work, and he took all these just random parts based out of England and whatever. That's what that one was. So Afterlife kind of, I believe if I saw 1 or 2 clips, felt very similar. Now, different premise, but just a feel.
Yeah, I mean, I for the most part enjoy Ricky Gervais. The more I watch the video, watch that first episode, the more I realize just how much I love their accent more than anything. But so that's where I'm at. Yo-Yo Sugar Free says Afterlife is perfect humor / grief for anyone who has lost someone they truly love. Again, I am 1 episode in, and I didn't get time to download more before my flight, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, yeah,
good.
So that's as far as I got on any kind of extra. The only other thing that's I don't know how this would ever get adjusted, and I don't know if I ever got around to mentioning it. I was so excited. Not only did I have nobody next to me on my plane ride to Sweden, so like the 9-hour thing, nobody next to me. Was there three total seats? I was in the way back, no one next to me. On the way back, same thing, 0 people next to me. Awesome. And even better yet, those flights had plugs, had outlets. Thank you.
Yes.
Unbelievable. Like that is my dream world, and it's because I'm a real dork, is that like, oh my God, I can get on a plane and then get caught up on editing because it just feels like the right thing to do, assuming you have the room to do so. I think my computer just draws too much power, and it didn't work either way. And that effing sucked.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about a roller coaster of like, oh my God, I've got so much editing to do. I've got 9 hours. I can edit as much as I want, to then like trying both plugs next to me, then like trying an adapter, trying everything.
Did other things charge?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, my odds are that your laptop
just draws too
much power because of because the power it requires for the editing software. You've got the probably NVIDIA card in there, and it probably just draws too much, and the system just says, "Yep, get bent."
Nope. I plugged in plenty of other things because that's what I was testing. I'm like, So you want to talk about the my struggles,
The ups and downs of Terry Miller
'cause
travel.
just to put it this way, this laptop, like the one directly in front of me, which is a powerful little guy.
Have you thought about using Steve's Chromebook to edit?
That's the next. No, this laptop, when editing, you get like an hour at most out of it. You know, if you're just doing interneting, that's the term the kids use. If you're just interneting, you could get like 2.5 to 3 hours out of it. But if you're doing something as intense as editing, you get like less than an hour out of it. So anyway, so that's my struggles with that. Alrighty then. Let's talk about USDGC. They released the caddy guide today?
The caddy guide, because there's the doubles event that's happening. And so the competitors of the doubles event got sent the caddy guide.
Oh, so is this? Oh, here it is.
Yep. Spectator
map, championship village,
yep. So
throw pink, and USDGC caddy guides.
Yep.
They've
the Winthrop Arena. So some of the major changes.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. And go back that one page. I'm going to go on my yearly rant. I think USDGC is a fun event. I think that it always provides a great competition. The players are treated well. Everyone there is great. I hate that they have an entire page, 2 pages, for rules of the course. I personally hate that if you throw a shot, you have to look up and you go OB, whether that's OB or hazard, and how many times you can throw, and from where you go next. It's the one part of USDGC course I just revile. Anyway, let's talk about the course changes. The first major change is hole 2. They've moved the TPad up and to the left. It's now a par 3 with a mando that you cannot go over the road.
Road/parking lot.
Yeah, road/parking lot. So you have to basically take a hyzer at it.
Can you pull all this up?
For
any of our viewers?
I probably could if I really, really wanted to.
Here, let me send you.
I could probably just look up USDGC.
Or you could click on that. Yeah. I just sent it to you via Facebook.
Okay, fine, Terry. I can do that.
I'm just giving you the shortcuts here.
Just giving me the shortcuts, Terry. All right. Let me hit F11 here to get full screen. And
make sure our audio is still there.
Yep,
People do not want to miss
I'm gonna do
our voices.
Overlay, Terry, so people will be able to still hear us and see the screen. So, hole 1, no real changes. Still got the double mando, 283 feet. Same thing. Hole 2, it's obviously moved up into the left here. You can no longer. It used to be down between kind of these 2 trees area.
I think back
was it even further
more,
back?
Yeah.
Was it further back? Okay,
down.
So yep. And it used to be a solid par 4. I don't have much attachment to hole 2. I know. I think Dixon was saying that it was a really, really great hole. Hole 2 was a good hole. Mm-hmm. It was tough.
It also provided an instant backup. Often.
Correct.
Because you play hole 1 at 283, relatively straightforward, 10 or 12-minute tee times, but then. I feel like 7 out of 10 times you'd then go stand at hole 2 and you just have to sit there
because
and
players would clip some of these trees and get stuck, and then you'd have to wait.
And you can't wait. You got to wait till they're like really clear because more people are pushing toward the actual pin because they're throwing better and better shots every year.
That. Hole 3 is complete. What you want to
go back up? Oh, okay.
Sure.
Just noticing that OB is off the fence again, which is someone is
just barely off the fence,
which is huge to know. Now, there won't be any rollers thrown here like there is in every other year.
Probably not, yeah.
But it is a very solid distinction to make. And also on hole 2, someone had said, and they're not indicated here necessarily, but that they had removed the mozzarella sticks.
I don't know.
Somebody said that. It's
don't
the
know
internet.
If that's true.
Who knows?
I don't know if that's true. This is the big one, a new hole 3. Hole 3 now plays from the same tee, but it used to come down to the trees. Now, just right of where this hazard zone is, but now they've actually combined hole 3 and 4. So you play to 4's green, which means a big monster shot from the top of the hill down, hopefully to somewhere over here, where then you will try to play. I mean, this says par 4. I can't imagine this is going to play at like, I think 4.5. Now it's hard for me to tell for sure, because it's hard for me to know where exactly the players are going. Are they going to be able to hit the same spot where they would normally land from four's drive? If so, then it's going to play similar score to what hole 4 did last year, but it's really hard for me to tell exactly.
The reason why I don't think it's going to play quite as tough, and somebody can correct me if they've been out there, please do. But looking at this, it looks like once they throw their second shot, that hole 3's pin, which used to be 4's, is not tucked as much down. It used to be much more horseshoe shaped, so you'd hit that Mando and then it would come back down. So if you put your cursor like down here, need pointers. Oh, sorry. I feel like if you're watching at home, I feel like the pin used to be here. If I'm looking at this all with the correct, orientation, not orientation, but I feel like the pin, because you used to have to hit the Mando and then it curled back more.
I don't think so, because if you look at where the horseshoe of trees, it was always in that horseshoe of trees.
Yeah, maybe then. Maybe it is the same pin. Anyway,
I think
it's going to be a very tough hole. There's no doubt about it, because clearly the hazard on the left side is the number one landing zone that most people would otherwise be landing in. So I'll be interested to see that.
It's going to be hard until we see where exactly the landing zone for players are going to be. I don't know what this red dot is here.
The drop zone probably if you miss the Mando.
Oh, your Mando?
Yeah, the Mando line right there.
Oh, the Mando line over here. Yeah, I suppose if you throw it all the way down there, you have to come back. Okay. Hole 4 is a repeat, kind of one of our older holes back from 2019, I believe.
Oh,
maybe it was 2018. It's 304 meters.
Feet.
304 feet. 93 meters. It used to be double Mando, but now there's only a single Mando on the left-hand side, so you can just basically throw a hyzer up there and end up probably around the mouth of the trees and pitch up. Hole 5, not much different. Still with the Mando, it's a forced water carry over the OB. I think the next few don't have a lot of changes to them.
8, all look pretty similar. What's behind 7? Is it still, OB? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still OB.
Sure, yep.
I believe the next big change is hole 11. Oh, well, I mean, hole 9 you always have to watch because they've done so many different things. Every year they've done islands, they've done whatever. So
it's been way off to the right, way off to the left, but okay.
Hole 10, again, you have the option to go for it, probably off the tee.
Yep.
That's right. Hole 11 is...
So the pin looks like it's in the same exact spot, and the tee appears to be in the exact same spot.
Correct. But you've added a whole bunch of hazard to the right and left, plus OB further to their right and left.
Which is always OB. But
then a big old hazard right where everybody used to throw. That was the landing zone. That was where almost everyone laid through to, and then pitched up and went and then attacked the green. So what they did is they more or less said, everyone to throw there? Let's put a hazard there. So now you either have to throw short of the hazard or try to throw long of the hazard and hope not to land one of the other hazards. At some point, you're going to find the Dukes of Hazard.
Come on, baby, kick them. No,
that's Daisy Dukes. That's a little different.
Damn it. Okay.
12 OB circle. I think that was there before.
Really?
I don't recall offhand.
I don't recall that being there, but maybe it was. No, that feels like
that might be new. The OB spot there. 13 is
12 still listed as a par 4.
Yeah, par 4. 13, which used to be called 888, is no longer 888.
818, bro.
It's the 818.
Well, here's what we've seen though. To clarify,
we've seen multiple pins.
We've seen the multiple pins, and then they switch by day. It usually goes like A, B, B, A, so to speak, in terms of pin positions.
There's no designation of that here, which I would think that you would have to have it designated in the caddy guide.
Well,
which means that if I'm taking this as correct, nothing on the island this year. You won't be throwing over the parking, which is my guess is that they're putting parking there. If they're expecting all these spectators, they have to have a place to put them. I'm guessing that this is now going to be parking for the spectators and that they're forcing everyone Mando to the left of a tree in the middle of the fairway to keep everybody away from there. And you're going to probably play from the top of that mound again. I don't know for sure. It's hard to tell.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know the FPOs have played from there. Have the men been always playing from there? From this new more left T-pad?
I don't
Because the men, if you put the cursor in the bottom right corner, the men have always teed traditionally from right next to the right
kind
there.
of the corner of where the OB is right there. I don't
Sure.
think anyone can see my mouse. I have that turned off. But yes, down in the lower right, the OB zone. Maybe not. I don't recall exactly where they tee from, but ultimately it's now 818.
Now, let me also throw this out there. If you've been around the USDGC a few times, like me, my old self, this basket, assuming it's where I think it is, this basket has been there before. I think one of the years I even played, this basket's been there before. Now, they didn't have the Mando tree or trees, Mando tree or line that they have in there now, but there has been a basket there one other time. It was really protected, and it was frustrating to try and access it because it felt like just some randomness when you're trying to throw in from 300 feet. So, but it is a par 4, which I think is also very noteworthy because this is played as a par 5. I feel like forever. Hence the albatross, right, that we saw by Nico.
Yeah, because he threw it in on 2.
Correct. So,
hole 14, no change as far as I can tell.
Hazard,
that's the downhill one that you play over. A lot of people skip it onto the island, so to speak.
Or they play off, way off to the right, then have a death putt. It's probably elevated.
Correct.
It has been for a few years.
15 doesn't look any different. It's still got the same dogleg left. You have to throw it through the triple Mando.
Yeah, that looks standard.
16 as well. 16 has changed back and forth in different years.
Of different ways.
It doesn't look like the tee is going to, the basket is going to change this year because we only see one on the actual caddy guide. So it's going to be your typical, probably throw an Anheuser or a straight shot through the trees at it and let it slide up there. Or a big forehand, which we've seen some people do.
It looks, if anything,
maybe the ropes are a little tighter.
That's what it looks like. Is that hazard line looks like it's really tightened up? Again by this depiction?
And we see 4 dots right next to the basket. Are those
Mott sticks?
Mott
probably
sticks still?
Yes.
And those were there last year.
Yes, they've been there for a couple of years.
Fairly certain.
Yes, I know they have. Yep.
As we see on hole 17, they've got 2 pin placements as normal, and a tee spot. The drop zone is down here. It's going to be probably typical rules that they've done in the past, where you get 3 shots at it. If you don't make it, you go up to the drop zone and play from there. So you're not going to see your 12s, 13s, and 14 scores. At most, you're probably going to see an 8 or a 9, at best. Well, maybe a little more than that. But
17, I think,
and it's 249 to the A pin, 254 to the other pin. Hearts will be broken. It's hole 17.
OB options limited to previous lie. Player must proceed to the island drop zone after 3 total OB throws.
Okay, so off the tee, 3 OB throws. Don't make the Mando, don't make the hay bales, go into the water, however it is. And then 18 doesn't look really much different as well. It's hard to tell whether the ropes are tighter or they're a little wider from last year. Everything, this is just an artist depiction, so we will see whether or not the ropes feel or seem any tighter than they have played in the past. But it's up in your normal position, up to the upper left after the kind of big question mark looking hole.
Okay.
So that's your Winthrop Arena.
Players. So the women, after 2. So the women do play 17 different, and I'm not going to read through every single detail and every single rule, but just in looking at 17, it says in bold, advancing to the island green, advance only with an inbounds lie on the green or after 3 OB throws. And then on the women, it says, for the throw pink women's championships, it says advance only with an inbounds lie on the green or after 2 OB throws.
Okay, so 1 less OB throw.
something to keep in mind. I'll actually go through and probably read all of these as best as I can a little later. But yeah, there's no.
Pilcher is telling me that I'm right, of course, about the parking lot, and that there's a spectator map posted that's going to be VIP parking. So
I think that's going to be my secondary job is
parking cars.
Yes, I will be. No, I'm going to be
interviewing people parking cars.
I want to be the shuttle driver. I think I would really enjoy.
You do like driving people around. You like driving strangers around, Terry. And so shuttle driving would be the best for you.
The quick side note, after not being home and in my car for almost 3 or 4 weeks, or 3 out of almost 4 full weeks, I don't drive a race car. I don't drive anything special. But damn, I've really enjoyed driving around for the last 24 hours. You would never think like you'd miss driving. And I drove Nate Doss's truck a little bit, some other vehicles a little bit, but man, I really missed driving. I don't know, weird stuff.
Ray asks, get Kenny back on the broadcast. We talked about this like last week or 2 weeks ago. Who is doing the commentary? Will the booth be on site again? Yes, booth is going to be on site. Men's commentary, I believe, is going to be
Philo
and Ian again.
Mm-hmm.
And the women are going to be Charlie, Hannah, and Juliana.
Sounds right.
That's what I know. Or at least that's what I think I know.
Yeah, well.
Is Kristen Starr playing USDGC? No.
She's playing throw.
She's playing the throw pink.
Women's championships, if that's what you meant, probably. But yes.
I don't know. Ray's pretty smart. I think he knows the difference. But maybe he was mistaken.
Yeah, I don't know why she would.
I mean, because she apparently qualified for USDGC somewhere. I don't know. I don't know where she would have, but I believe she is playing throw pink.
She is playing throw pink.
So Aaron asks, is this the mozzarella sticks course? Yes.
Yes. That's where we've seen them a few times. I think it is worth taking a look, as everybody's had to qualify for these events. Throw pink women. Did you see? I'm gonna get there one way or another. It's all under the USDGC.
Dust on the board says, just combine the USWDGC and the throw pink already. What do you think? Think they should be combined?
I mean, they're very different. The thing is, they're very.
What titles?
What titles are we trying to award, and what are we trying to accomplish? Because the U.S. women's, from the inception, from day one, has been very much a large scale women's only event that caters to all levels. It is not a pure focus exclusively on our top FPO division or our most competitive FPO division. It has always been, by nature, had anywhere from 6 to 8 to 10 to 22 different women's divisions. And that's what the United States Women's Disc Golf Championship always has been, and exactly what it was in Madison just this year. Throw pink is separate, and it is more like the USDGC in terms of its agenda, in having women qualify for it that have been playing FPO, that are playing on this very challenging course, and they have just very different agendas. Understandably, if you're relatively new to the game, I can understand how people get them confused or don't understand why one is this or one's the other, because the Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship is not a major. It is, I believe, an A tier this year, but our U.S. Women's was a major, but this is being played alongside with an open major. So I understand the confusion. Will they come to some? It's not going to be a merger, but will there come to some naming that makes it a little bit more clear and/or their agenda? Maybe, maybe not.
I get tradition and all, but at some point, if you're going to have the throw pink, if the plan is to always have throw pink and USDGC at the same location at the same time, just combine the events. Make it one event. Make it USDGC with FPO and MPO. And I understand you have the one division, one champion stuff that's been there forever. But if the goal I'll say, I don't know the goal. I don't know what they're trying to do. If they're happy just having it as an A tier forever, then fine. Keep it as an A tier, whatever. Maybe there's a PDGA thing that, there's too many majors, or the PDGA wants to keep FPO majors at a certain number, and if you create the USDGC and put the FPO field in it, then that's automatically another major. I don't know what the status is, but if the plan is to have Throw Pink as a major and USDGC as a major, just combine them. Like, I get it. It's one division, one champion. Whatever. We don't need it anymore. No women ever play USDGC anymore because of Throw Pink. As long as Throw Pink's going to be here, women will not play USDGC. So you might as well combine them at some point.
Well, one of these days soon, as in the next few, we should, if anything, maybe have Sarah Nicholson on, and she could make some clarifications.
For sure.
Exactly.
She would know. And maybe, again, like I said, maybe that's not the goal. Maybe the goal isn't to have another major. Maybe the goal is just to have an event, a really great event for women here with our USDGC to help shine a light on the FPO field. And if so, then I guess that's fine. But I swear, if in like 2 years I see an M next to Throw Pink and an M next to USDGC, and they're both at the same course on the same weekend.
See, I don't think that's such a big deal.
Why not combine them?
There's just different naming conventions. Throw Pink is the title sponsor, the major sponsor that would be putting it on. Like, I see where you're going, but it clearly does not bother me the way it would bother you.
I just don't understand. I do understand. I understand all the things that you say about how, we can add more sponsors. I don't know. It just, you might as well, I feel like, just make them the same at that point. But, I mean, that's fine. Again, I don't know what the goal is. I don't know what the end purpose is, if there is a long-term plan, and it might not be what we think it is. And I'm okay with that. It doesn't have to be. So,
I wish disc golf just ran every decision past you first.
I wish they did.
Just all of disc golf. Nobody disc golfs without talking to Johnny.
Most major decisions. Not saying they have to actually listen to what I say, but just let me know ahead of time. I would like that.
Yeah. I don't think that's an unfair request.
I don't think it is.
I mean, come on. There are 41 women currently registered and signed up and locked in for the Throw Pink Women's Championship, which confuses me just slightly because I thought I saw that there's a cap of 40. But anyway, 40 are, and then I believe there is
there's a play-in, too.
A play-in, exactly. That's what I was going to say. That's going to be taking place Monday qualifying, which you can do. And currently, there are 8 women that are signed up, and I don't know if that's the max.
Any names?
Yeah, absolutely. Hannah Wynn, who we've seen out there on the tour in the last, throughout the year. Lydia Lyons, who we've seen. Paige Shue, who lives down the road.
What has Paige Shue ever done? She won Worlds.
Sarah Cunningham, who also won Worlds.
Oh, yeah.
Stacey Ronsley is on the waiting list. So right now, it looks like there's 8 spots available for the play-in. There's 8 people that can play in the play-in.
Okay.
Stacey Ronsley is sitting on the outside of being able to even attempt the play-in.
Correct.
Yeah. So, very
and
cool.
I believe only one of those 8 get in. Maybe. It probably depends on whether make sure everybody shows up to Throw Pink. But
it doesn't state. I'm sure in some fine print.
I think there might.
One spot is up for grabs.
One spot is up for grabs for FPO. 5 spots are up for grabs for MPO, I believe. 3 or 5.
You don't know. They should have asked you, and then you would know.
I think they did ask me, and I was sleeping like Steve Dodge.
That's a good call. Eligible Monday qualifying. Top 5 scores.
All right, 5. I was right.
Oh, you can join the wait list. There are 124 competitors currently signed up for their chance to play. And then there's 14 more on that waiting list. And I'm going to name off a few names quickly.
Wait. Wait, do you want to name off your names? Or do you want me to go my little rant first?
Let me name off the names.
Okay.
Here's some names. No disrespect if I don't call off your name, but some names that jump off this page at me that are trying to qualify. Aaron Doyle, Andrew Fish, Brian Schweberger, Charlie Goodpasture, Holton Montgomery, PDJ's own Danny Voss. Come on, Danny. Just make a donation to me. David Wiggins, Dustin Keegan, Elijah Bickle, Evan Scott, Harold Duvall.
I wonder if Harold can pull some strings.
Johnny McCrae.
Yeah, I mean,
Jonathan Nicholson.
That's unfortunate for Johnny because obviously with his heart condition he didn't have a chance to qualify. He missed most of the season. So
Chris Orrick, if you're a little bit old school.
If I were to put money, I would put money that Johnny McCrae qualifies.
Nate Perkins on this list. Raven Newsom on this list. I don't see Ryan Pilcher. Ryan. Scott Stokely, Silverlet. Stephen Jacobs, an AM World winner from years ago. Zach Arlinghouse. I'm just thinking of the names. Zach Melton. Zachariah Johnson. So that's what you have.
Now, my small rant.
Oh, jeez.
Put Stacey Ronsley in a group. Now.
Why? I mean, there's only 8 spots.
8 women get a chance to qualify. You have 1 on the wait list for 9. 124 men get to try for 5 spots?
But the division, I feel like it's representative and corresponds to the overall division sizes. So like there's 90 or 100 men that are playing in the USDGC versus 40 that are playing in the US or in the
why do we give
I'm just saying it's semi-proportional.
Why do we have 124 men available for 5 spots versus 8 women for 1 spot? Just
I don't know. You could. I mean, you could go ahead and say, right? Why isn't there 60? Why aren't there 60 qualifying positions for women and 60 qualifying positions for men?
And again, we don't know.
I mean, if we really want to be fair, and I get it,
we don't know if more women would have signed up if there were more spots available. I know there's only 1 on the wait list, but if I'm a woman and I see 1 on the wait list already, I might think, I'm not going to sign up. I get that. Like, I'm not complaining about that. But seriously, like, just let her in. Just make a foursome and a fivesome. I get that you might want even groups, a foursome and a foursome, and you put them in time. Just put her in the first group available. Let her go. I'm sorry. Like, the numbers just feel a little off to me.
I can name one who would have.
So,
okay.
That's my take on it. Just let Stacey Ronsley in. If she's the only person on the wait list.
But what happens if 3 more people sign up?
Then, I mean, if the event is closed and you can't get on the wait list anymore, I don't know. I don't know if they've closed registration.
Well,
but again, if she's the only one, I'm saying, if you have 8 more people sign up, then you have to just say whatever. I'm sorry, you can't. But if she's the only one,
but there's also 14 people on the MPO waiting list.
I don't care about them. There are 124 men available. So 124, right?
Yeah. To 8. I get it. I'm not dismissing the disparity between the 2 offerings. I understand that. But I don't think you just add 1 more to make it 9. Like, if you wanted to have the argument that it should have been more like, instead of 132, it went 100 versus 30, and then 32 spots. Like, I can understand that argument. But to add Stacey just because she's also on the waiting list, I from a logistical standpoint, that doesn't make any sense to me.
I agree. Logistically, it doesn't make sense.
Now, if you want to have the bigger argument that there should have been more, but there also may not have been a demand for it.
Correct.
I mean, yeah.
But I mean,
because let's look at it this way. yeah, it doesn't matter. Okay. All right. Ryan Pilcher says, I wasn't planning on attending this year, but I keep thinking about flying out there for fun.
Ryan, I would fly with you if I weren't doing the broadcast. Sorry. Can I get on the wait list?
I'm going to call this, I'm going to assume it's Jason Jarvis, says, it's already weird that you have to qualify throughout the year to get in. Where is there a tournament to get in a tournament that already has a field that got in with other events?
I've got no problem with the qualification processes.
That's becoming more and more common, and I can tell you, first of all, that just happened at GMC and that happened at Maple Hill.
Yeah, they have play-in.
This is going to become more common, and here's why. And USDGC has been doing it literally, maybe not since the 90s, but pretty close. They've been doing it very early on. Maybe it even was that first year. I don't know. Anyway, you're going to have a large-scale tournament, and we'll use just an example. You're going to have a huge tournament taking place in a place like Florida. Let's just say it's on the Elite Series. And someone like Johnny McRae, who doesn't have a tour card, let's just say he doesn't have, or better example is Ken Climo, actually. Ken Climo doesn't have a tour card, but the tour is coming to play in Florida. So, in theory, Climo can't necessarily sign up for this tournament on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. However, if there is a qualifying event just before the event happens, that gives the locals and others a chance to actually get into the event. So it's not just exclusively people that are already on the tour. So you're going to find that scenario become more and more common because you're going to have a superstar or superstars in a given area that are regional that otherwise have no chance to be able to play in a Disc Golf Pro Tour event. And it's simply because they're not already on the tour. So if you have a regional or a local qualifying event that takes place just before the event happens, that's how some of those players could play. And I know there isn't a full-time tour stop in Florida, but that's like a perfect example or scenario of how and why they're doing it. It gives other people an opportunity to get into the event that maybe otherwise couldn't. And so the USDGC is no different. They've been doing it for 20 years in terms of having this pre-event qualifying event. It's kind of like Happy Gilmore, right? Like winning the AM event and then getting a qualification or getting an invite to the pro event 2 weeks later. It's kind of that mentality to some degree.
I would have to go back and Dust is asking how come not all the big events are qualifiers? Why isn't MVP Open a qualifier? Why isn't Ledgestone a qualifier? I don't know if Ledgestone was or wasn't.
I'm guessing it was, I don't know.
But why aren't all the big events qualifiers? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. I know every year they pick a slate of events. Some of them are big DGBT events. Some of them are bigger quote unquote A-tier events. I don't exactly know what the criteria is that they have picked on in the past, but yeah, I can't answer. I don't really have it. I haven't really had an issue with the qualifying events ever, so I can't say. Terry's going to look up maybe what the qualifying events were.
So there's certain people, also just to clarify, at least from a USDGC
previous
perspective,
winners
exempt from qualifying and special invitations include essentially all of your previous winners, Climo, Dosh, Schustrick, Schultz, all those guys. The top 10 from the USDGC the previous year also earn an invitation. So those people are in. The following tournament champions will receive an automatic invitation in 2022. The United States Masters champion, MP40, so who won the Tim Selinsky, which was that just Joe Revere, or did he win Masters Worlds?
Joe Revere did not.
Okay. The 2022 Masters World Champion, the 2022 United States Amateur Champion. So Paul Kranz won that.
That's cool.
No, I'm sorry, not Paul.
No, the other one.
Yeah. Grow. Ilkin Grove.
Thank you.
Ilkin won the. I just misread this. He won the U.S. AMs and then in a playoff over Paul Kranz. Then Paul Kranz went to Worlds and won AM Worlds. So they're both invited. The 2022 Deaf National Champion in the MPO division and the 2022 College Disc Golf National Champion in men's singles.
I wonder if any of those people actually registered to play.
All of those people. And then it went on to talk about all the
list.
other events. Las Vegas, Challenge, Throw Down the Mountain, Champions Cup, Texas States, 303, the Challenge at Goat Hill, OTB Open, Portland Open, the Preserve, Baltic Disc Golf Championship, Idlewild, Sula, European Open, Foxwood Open in Ontario, the BC Open in British Columbia, Ledgestone, Des Moines Challenge, PDGA Worlds, Butler County, the Silver Series event, and Green Mountain Championship. So
it's a lot of the Pro Tour, but it's also
a few others.
A few others that give other people a chance. For instance, let's just say you're Terry Miller, and he didn't qualify he's on the DGPT tour. He hasn't qualified. He's kept taking 25th place, and it just can't quite get there. He has the opportunity to go say, I'm going to go to Foxwood and try to qualify there. I'm going to go to here where maybe the competition isn't quite what a Pro Tour event is, but it's good, and maybe you can then qualify at that location. I don't have an issue. I actually kind of like the qualifiers. It doesn't have to be every Pro Tour stop, because honestly, then you might as well just at that point take the top 40 players of the Pro Tour and send them in. So I don't mind that. I think that's actually I think they do a really good job at that.
And just they'd run out of spots as well. I feel like if you kept going down with every single one of those events, you'd fill it up with just that.
Well, you have 12 Pro Tour stops, about 12 to 13, depending on, and times 5 stop qualifiers at every event, usually.
Yeah, and then your
top
other
60.
Exemption, so you're already at 70 or 80 people out of 120. So
yeah, you would run out real fast. So.
Ooh, Larry's Angry Squirrel at Victory Park was a USDGC qualifier. Really? Not this year, was it?
It wasn't on the list.
I didn't see. Yeah, it wasn't this year, but maybe it was one other year. That's wow. That's a huge feather in his cap for sure. So, all right. AM to make the biggest event. Yeah. Okay. Same as the college. See that it is neat they're bringing back previous winners. At one time, they had said, "Hey, even if you've won this event in the past, we are not providing an exemption." We've seen this thing go through varying levels.
Yeah.
Of how tight and firm and just how difficult it is to qualify for this, and they've gone back and forth on a number of qualifying criteria and exemptions.
They've loosened, so to speak, up their previous champions' qualifications quite a bit, because you also get a qualifier if you're with the top 10 in the previous year, I believe. So
yeah. So that is, plenty of USDGC talk there. Woo! That wasn't necessarily intended, but next week we're going to be in the thick of it with Tuesday night. I will be down there, and so be bringing you, maybe I'll have somebody in there with me as we do that.
Yeah, for better or worse, this event always provides a dramatic finish, and it's usually exciting right to the end. And the way the disc golf season has been recently, I can't imagine how much more exciting we can get. I don't know if, the basket's going to get up and run away or something on the final 18th putt. I can't imagine anything that's going to be able to top some of the things we've seen this year.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be wild. All right. Do we have anything else worth talking about? I'm sure there's going to be something as soon as we get off. As soon as we go off air. Umbrellas everywhere. Let me scroll up and see if there's any other things we need to speak on. Really funny. Aaron, this was very much in the world out there. Aaron, way earlier, had said, Terry, talk about Paul not talking after he was awarded his second place tour trophy. I get it. There's a mild amount of irony when, Paul had just said something about, wishing Kenny was more present. I don't feel like those conversations, that's really a good analogy or a good comparison. I don't really know what there is to say to it. I don't have a problem with it because as you heard from Calvin and from some others, there's I think as a competitor, some of them just don't feel as if their finish and their place, I don't want to say isn't worthy of speaking about, but if they know they didn't win, they largely, I feel like, let the other person maybe have the moment and or have the highest accolades or whatever it is. To me, and I'll reverse this for a moment and just say, doesn't it sometimes feel weird? Somebody takes third at a tournament and they give either the longest, and maybe it's even the best, but they give the longest speech and the best speech or have the most to say. And often I catch myself thinking, I kind of wish you'd shut up. You didn't win. That's what I find myself thinking.
It depends.
Sometimes, of course, not all the time. I'm not suggesting anyone that doesn't win should never talk. I'm not saying that. But sometimes when the guy or girl takes fifth and they're droning on, and I'm just thinking, man, we've got like 3 more speeches till we then get to the champion.
Oh, no. First of all, you should never hand a microphone to anyone that finished under third place. Ever. Ever.
Fair enough.
Ever.
Which means fourth shouldn't have been recognized.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be recognized. They shouldn't be handed a microphone.
Okay.
You could, congratulations, Terry Miller, on your 4th place trophy for tour
Isn't it
points.
funny then when somebody goes to grab
Nope.
for a mic?
Nope, it should be known.
I know, I'm just saying.
I would not even hide the fact that I hold it away from them. I'm 6'6". Like, jump and get it, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's Germ, then he could just grab it too. But no, nobody under third place should ever get handed a microphone.
Okay.
But there are times like the third place person might have a really good thing to say, and a really, if someone, again, maybe who isn't used to finishing in the top 5 or top 3, scroll down. David Wiggins Jr. comes out and takes third place. He gets up there and talks about how important this was to him or whatnot. I kind of don't have a problem with that, as opposed to, and then you get to Ricky who takes first place. Cool. I heard Ricky 3 weeks ago take first place. Yes, it means a lot to him. Does it mean that much more to him than it did 3 weeks ago? Probably not. Does the OTB Open mean that much more than, we'll just say the Ledgestone to Ricky? Probably not. They're both big, great events. So the fact that, we'll say, someone like a David Wiggins would take third and have a very heartfelt speech, you're probably getting better speeches out of those guys usually. Now, there are unique circumstances like this weekend with Maple and Simon, that meant probably a little more to him, being now the kind of hometown boy winning the MVP Open at Maple Hill. So there are circumstances, but in general, talking about this Pro Tour points thing, I don't think Calvin wanted to speak, and Jeff kind of pushed the mic at him, and Kelvin reluctantly was like, okay, fine, I'll say something. Paul didn't want to speak. Jeff tried to kind of coax him into something, but Paul was like, it's not my thing. And that's fine. He either doesn't feel like his second place justifies a talk, or he wanted to give the spotlight to Ricky, who won it. If you care that much about the tour points, in a dramatic fashion, coming down to the final putts from players that weren't even them, that really made the decision, which is completely wild that other people have control. And it's always the case, because you can only control what you do, but the people who came between them and things like that all year long, you have no control over any of that stuff. So I don't have a problem. I don't think it was disrespectful. I don't think it was, what's more disrespectful, him getting the mic and saying, thanks everybody, and handing it back, or him just declining to talk? I don't know. I don't believe there was anything malicious or disrespectful about it.
That's what I would say.
I think Paul just, he, again, even deep down, if he didn't feel like it was worth talking about because he took second, fine. Give the moment to Ricky, who clearly, as we've seen with interviews and talking to him, truly believes, at least outwardly, that the points title is maybe the most important thing of the season, because it shows his consistency. Now, it's been a while since Ricky won a major. I think, and I think maybe he gets a taste of that major again, and maybe his ideas change about what's more important to him. But I think it just, right now, Ricky is outwardly saying that he feels that his consistency throughout the year, winning the points title and being at the top of the sport week in and week out is more important to him than any individual victory. Take it or leave it. But that's what the guy's saying.
Yeah, I will put a bow on this by saying I don't think there was any disrespect and or saltiness. I think he would have declined if he was in third. I think he would have declined if he was in fourth. I don't think it's because it came down to a final putt by Gannon Burr that he took second that he was like particularly salty about that.
I heard he gave Gannon Burr a wedgie after the round.
That's just my guess, though. All right. Aaron is saying Ricky will get USDGC. That's a valid, bold prediction. That
Ricky's had ups and downs there. He took third just last year, 2 years ago.
I can't
and he's taken
anymore.
some really bad spots as well.
So, yeah, we'll see. So, anyway, there's that. Has anyone seen? Okay, I did see this question earlier by Ray. And Ray, it's a very fair question. Has said, has anyone here played or seen the new course in Charlotte for the DGPT finals? Does it hold up to Hornets Nest? So I'd only make the distinction. It's the new location, but not a new course.
I think they're gonna have some new pin placements and TPads. But we played Nevin in 2012.
2012, Nevin. I was trying to remember when it might have.
I'm sure I
even
crushed
gone
it.
I'm
sure.
We don't even have to look. We won't even look at.
Don't even look at my scores.
We won't even look at your scores.
Do not look at my scores. Just assume
it was incredible.
That course.
So it says long gold level wooded course, shooting par 62, rates about 1,000. Established in 2009. Funny part is it's just 2.6 miles from Hornets Nest, so it's not far away at all. It was played in the World Championship, so if you want any stuff, you can go back to the 2012 Worlds, which doesn't have a lot of coverage.
Dig up that DVD.
Yeah, dig up that DVD. But yeah, it's rated 4.5 on UDisc. Of course, there's different pins and tees and everything else. It's a very solid course. It's a very challenging course. I think about the Latin. I was there, I think, for the 2018 Worlds, Worlds, and I think I was there right around that time as well for a U.S. Masters, and watching Barry Schultz, Johnny McRae, Brian Schweberger, Kevin McCoy, those guys play it. Yeah, it's a very, very difficult course, and will it live up? I'm just gonna say yes. I think it will.
The funny part is, I did just go look up the courses. The problem is, I think we were all in separate pools. They were all shifted, so there's no good way to determine what I played, unless they have it adjusted properly. I wouldn't put any bets on that. But
you shredded.
I shredded. It says 934, but I'm sure it was mixed up, and probably the rounds are messed up because of the pools, and it was probably
and
like
probably
1,034.
I was gonna say it probably transposed your numbers.
Probably.
So rather than 934, I don't know, 390. No,
340, 943 would be the best you can
give
me.
They mixed it up with the score. No, which is 60.
Nope. That's the best you can give me, Terry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sure.
Spock says, who owns the older footage? Could we see a re-release in digital formats or streaming? I mean, it's funny.
2012, was that a DVD?
No, I don't think so. I know I filmed some random stuff when I wasn't playing, and that was the year that
was the Jomez year, right? That
he showed up as well. I have footage from the finals as well. But Paul and Sarah Holcomb, after Paul won and after Sarah Holcomb won, I went in and got my own interview with them, just like I'd been doing for 2 years at that point. So,
yeah, I think I held the camera for some of those.
Yeah, probably. DGN needs to get their hands on all of the old PDGA World DVDs and USDGCs. Yeah, some of that stuff may not see the light of day. Some of it, some people have the rights to. Some, yeah. I understand that sentiment to some degree, but I also feel like there's going to be other entities that also come along. Mm-hmm. And not to say that DGN can't or couldn't acquire it all. But I also feel like there's going to be other services and archivals and things that will be present in our day.
I mean, they have,
and the PDGA technically owns all, almost all of that as well.
Yeah,
just might not be as out there. All right, I think
we can give something away, Terry.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh my gosh, so
it's
exciting.
It's been a few weeks. Do you want to do 2 giveaways this week?
I do.
Okay, we'll
Let's
do 2
double
this
it up.
week, and we'll
2
do
for
2
Tuesday,
next week,
even though it's Wednesday.
Because I think we owe 3 right now. So we're going to do 2 this week, and we'll do 2 next week. Patreon.com/SmashboxTV is your place where you can support the podcast. You can support Terry and I. You can support independent content creators. Not just us, but lots of them out there. But preferably us. Start with us. And if you have money left over, which you shouldn't because you should be giving it all to us, but if you did have some left over, go look for some other cool content creators.
Yeah,
sure. But don't have any left over. That's all I'm saying. You can be eligible to our weekly giveaway. We usually do something. Tonight we're going to give away one of these disc member boxes.
I'm
reaching for it here. Boom. I need to be careful what I show now because our screen is so crystal clear now. They might be able to read an address. They could find out where my work is and stalk me or something.
Yes,
because that's where it gets delivered.
And that's where everybody
office. Hanging out outside my work, just waiting for me. Creepy people. I see you out there, Ray. All right. We have 165 people eligible for our giveaway. We add it. Let me go to random.org and put those numbers in. I do also want to say, Terry, I'm not going to say anything. I lied. I'm not going to say anything because I want to talk to Terry about it after the show before I say anything publicly.
Ooh, this sounds spicy.
It's not at all.
So spicy.
It's the most mundane of things, but I just don't want to say anything. All right, so we have 165 people eligible for this giveaway, Terror Bear. What are we going to draw? What number? They're sorted by first name. That was lazy.
Ooh. Oh, I like the sound of that. Let's go with, we got 2 of them. Let's go with the second number.
Second number. Our first number is 8. Our second number is 10.
Wow, a couple
keeping it
low numbers.
So we're looking at.
What do you got? Low.
No, please don't.
Apple bottom jeans.
Boots with the fur.
Yep.
Let me look at who number 8 is once I can hit F11 here to go out of full screen mode. And all right, number 10 is Andrew Braun. Congratulations, Andrew Braun. You're going to get this wonderful disc member box. You can be a disc member as well if you sign up. I don't know if they still have a wait list or not, but if they don't, get
on it.
Or if they do have a wait list, get on it. If they don't have a wait list, get on signing up for this. It's like $25 a month. You get at least $40 worth of stuff. You can't go wrong with that. Come on.
No.
All right, Terry, we have.
And if they do have a wait list, you could probably hawk this for big money.
True.
So just saying.
And we have one more giveaway tonight, Terry. We're going to give away something out of your personal stash. I think. Right out of your bag. I get to pick the disc.
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Everybody.
That's not going to.
Everybody needs what's in my bag.
People are like, "What is this?" No, I don't think so.
All right.
All right. So what are we going?
Go ahead and grab. Generate it just once. The very next person.
The very next person. So as
you can
see, we're still at number 10. We're going to hit generate, and it is
10 again.
69, dude.
Like we're 12.
Well, we are. Let's be honest. If everybody in the world didn't just do that, then they have a problem.
True. That's true.
Come on. All right. Number 69 is Ian Anderson from Central Coast Disc Golf.
That's awesome.
Congratulations, Ian Anderson.
So
you know what? If you have any extra money, go support Ian Anderson, even though he doesn't need it now because we're just sending him discs.
Yeah. Jeez.
In fact, don't tell Ian, but take your Patreon away from Central Coast and send it to us. Just kidding. We love Ian. Yeah, Ian Anderson. Congratulations, Ian Anderson. We'll we'll get something out.
Oh,
to
I
you.
got something for old Ian.
You can give him something you'll just buy him something at the USCGC shop.
Probably a whole bag full of stuff, actually.
Wow.
I was just like, hey, Ian.
Like a player's pack?
Or four.
Oh, that would be really good.
Yeah.
Terry's going to collect a player's pack from me from one.
Probably not.
Chris Dickerson, because
I've got other stuff to do.
No, you don't. If you didn't know, and if you're interested in maybe winning a player's pack from USCGC, there's 2 contests right now, and I'm working on a third, but I'm not going to spoil it yet. 2 contests out on Skipbase that you can sign up for. They're $10 entry fee. You can win either Paul McBeth player's pack, the actual player's pack that the USCGC hands him, he will ship to you, or Chris Dickerson's player's pack. So the previous 2 winners.
The CDIC Slayer?
That guy, Terry. Wow. Chris Dickerson. $10 to enter. Pick 6 men. Player, I think the rating is 6,150 points you have to play with. And please, by all means, we will ship that to you. There's second and third place prizes. You can win some double G craft jerky.
No, you can't.
You can.
No, you can't.
Some Paul McBeth Foundation discs.
What?
And out of my own stash, I'm going to give away a Chris Dickerson, the CDIC Slayer, as Terry calls him, the one of his original ESP robot chicken buzzes.
Dang.
They're sitting there right there. There's a stack of them. I'm going
you didn't.
to take one, and I'm going to hand it to Terry and say, ship this to somebody.
You didn't just do that.
So, and a 1-year subscription to UDisc and DGN next year.
What?
Yeah. So not only can you watch your players compete on Skipbase, but you can follow them on UDisc as well. So anyway, again, go to skipbase.com, go under the event matchup, and then click on the pay-to-play ones. It's $10. All the money goes to the Paul McBeth Foundation. Every last dime. I see no profit from this at all. It's just a lot of my time that goes to the Paul McBeth.
Do I get money?
We'll work on that. Should I run a Terry Miller Foundation one?
No, probably not a good idea.
Probably not a good idea. I believe that's called fraud.
Oh.
I'm just saying. It's
Not
probably
above that.
considered fraud.
Ray, we certainly, I know we didn't gloss on a lot of, we glossed over it, didn't talk about it at all by not talking about it at all. But yes, Chris Dickerson missed cash this weekend for the first time in 238 events, which shows you how competitive not only the playoff event is with far fewer people and the cash line then being smaller, but then also how tough that course is when someone as good as Chris Dickerson
Who hits
doesn't
lines
cash.
regularly.
Yeah, trust me. It was very much talked about within the Nate sandwich I was in, but it was, I guess that's the end of that.
Oh, well, I mean, our audio is still here, Terry, so we can close it out.
All right, I guess we'll do that. The lights are out.
What time is it? 12:43?
We need to raise money here so we can keep the lights on and the cameras on.
The camera just died.
Wow. All right, guys, we're going to call it. That's been it. Thank you for joining us for the after show. This has been Smashbox TV's after show 422. I'll see most of you next week, and let's have some fun. We'll see y'all there when you step inside the Smashbox.